Chapter 1910, Enemy Attack, 1. Just as Yi Qingtang was mulling over this, Xue Fu hurried into the grand hall. He looked very grim. Holy Lord, Holy Sun, someone is causing trouble outside. Who? Yi Qingtang asked. Xue Fu shook his head. I don't know. He is demanding to see the Holy Lord. Before Yi Qingtang could reply, Ming Wang's face instantly became very stern. Xue Fu, you have become increasingly negligent and careless. Xue Fu was momentarily startled before immediately getting down on one knee. Ming Wang said coldly, what kind of place is the Temple of Shadows? Who is this person who can demand to see the Holy Lord as and when he pleases? Xue Fu's face turned pale as he tried to defend himself. This person is very powerful. I couldn't stop him. I am the useless one. Holy Lord, please see fit to punish me. Yi Qingtang was astounded by Xue Fu's words. She knew just how strong Xue Fu was. Although he paled in comparison to Ming Wang and Ming Gu, he was still amongst the elite in the central mainland. Even Xue Fu could not handle this person. Ming Wang's eyes also darkened. I want to see just who this person is. With that, Ming Wang took his leave from Yi Qingtang and turned to leave the grand hall. As Yi Qingtang gazed after Ming Wang's departing figure, a sense of unease rose in her heart. Outside the Temple of Shadows, a crowd of anxious and tense undead was keeping a close watch on an effeminate-looking youth. The youth looked like he was in his early teens. With long, jet-black hair that flowed loosely behind his back, it contrasted with his fair face, which was pale to the point of looking a little sickly. The youth had very effeminate features. His skin was fair and flawless, while his rosy lips were curled up in a coquettish smile. Please ask your Holy Lord to come out. I am not interested in dealing with a bunch of minions. The youth lifted his chin and crossed his arms over his chest. He surveyed the bunch of undead with scornful eyes. The corpses of several undead were already strewn beside the youth. Even the charming lady ghost was in a pathetic state now. She was being supported by an elder, as a large piece of her shoulder had been sliced off. Spiderweb-like cracks had also appeared on her human form. Who the hell are you? Do you think you are fit to meet our Holy Lord? Lady Ghost gritted her teeth. The effeminate-looking youth narrowed his eyes at Lady Ghost. Don't think that just because you are called the Undead Clan that you really want die. I couldn't be bothered with you earlier, but if you continue to whine, I will make sure you completely disintegrate from this earth. A lavender-colored flame suddenly ignited as the youth spoke. The flame didn't appear hot at all, but the surrounding temperature suddenly increased. Lady Ghost gritted her teeth. She knew very well that she was no match for this youth. They had barely exchanged moves, but she was already half dead. The youth was far more powerful than Lady Ghost could imagine. Lady Ghost was also considered one of the elite practitioners in Central Mainland, but even she couldn't withstand a single blow from this youth. She had never been so humiliated. What a bold statement. A cold voice suddenly resonated out from the Temple of Shadows. Lady Ghost felt a burst of joy at that voice. In the next second, Ming Wang suddenly landed in front of Lady Ghost. Holy Sun Ming Wang, Lady Ghost greeted him. Chapter 1911, Enemy Attack, 2. Ming Wang's eyes landed on the effeminate-looking youth. Another one of you has come seeking death. Please. I have no time to waste on you guys. Get your Holy Lord to come out now so that I can get this over with. The effeminate-looking youth showed complete disregard for Ming Wang as he pursed his lips impatiently. You are not fit to meet her, Ming Wang stated coldly. The face of the effeminate-looking youth darkened. A glint surfaced in his dark pupils. At that moment, the youth suddenly looked past Ming Wang and toward the entrance of the Temple of Shadows, where a slender figure was standing. A twisted smile suddenly appeared on the face of the youth. The Holy Lord of Shadows? Ming Wang was stunned by the words uttered by the effeminate-looking youth. He turned and saw that Yi Qingtang had already reached the entrance of the hall. Ming Wang frowned. It's good that you have finally appeared. I won't waste your time either. Just hand over the item and everything will be fine. The youth smiled at Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang. What item? Where did this lunatic come from? There was a crazed light in the eyes of the effeminate-looking youth and he exuded danger from every pore. A deep unease tore at Yi Qingtang's senses. How dare you? Ming Wang's face had turned completely dark. He suddenly raised his hand and a gigantic black dragon charged toward the effeminate-looking youth. I already said that I am not interested in playing with minions like you. The expression of the youth suddenly shifted and a silver glint flashed across his eyes. He raised his palm and a lavender ball of cold fire was ignited within. The cold flames flew toward Ming Wang's dragon. With a thunderous boom, the icy fire sliced straight through the black dragon, splitting it in half. It's him. Something clicked in Little White Tiger's head when it saw the youth's attack. Yi Qingtang was taken aback. Before she could say anything, the icy ball of fire had broken through Ming Wang's defenses and smashed right into his body. In the blink of an eye, Ming Wang was engulfed in lavender light. An expression of intense agony crossed his face. The lavender light seemed to have frozen into an indestructible layer of ice with Ming Wang encased inside. Weakling. The effeminate-looking youth gazed disdainfully at Ming Wang. Drawing back his 5 fingers slightly, countless icicles suddenly protruded out of the ice surrounding Ming Wang. The icicles pierced right through Ming Wang's body. Yi Qingtang was stunned. To her knowledge, Ming Wang's powers were extremely formidable. He had already progressed beyond the Paragon level. For Yi Qingtang, who had just attained the Paragon level today, she was not a match even for Ming Wang. But even the powerful Ming Wang was totally defenseless against the youth's attack. I have seen this fellow. No, more like I have felt his presence before, at the Jiang family residence. He was the one who injured Jiang Xiaobai. Little White Tiger's fur was already standing straight on end. That unbelievably powerful aura was very familiar. It had already encountered it earlier in the Jiang family residence. Chapter 1912, Enemy Attack, 3, What? Yi Qingtang's heart pounded so loudly she could hear the thrum reverberating against her chest. She never expected to come face to face with the murderer of the Jiang family at this juncture. And this person was powerful beyond belief. The undead clan of the Temple of Shadows bristled with malevolence as they witnessed the scene. Even so, they knew very well that they were no match for this youth. Within seconds, all the undead turned their eyes toward Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang, she was also feeling very lost. Even Ming Wang was no match for him. How the hell was she supposed to defeat him? But Yi Qingtang had no idea what this person was looking for. He didn't make himself clear. Or perhaps, the real Holy Lord of Shadows would know what this person was hinting at. But Yi Qingtang didn't know. Holy Lord, just hand over the item. Unless, you want me to destroy your entire temple before you are forced to do so. The effeminate-looking youth had already reached the end of his patience. Yi Qingtang looked at Ming Wang, who was still trapped by the icicles. She felt very anxious but had to pretend to appear calm and confident. You want it? Yi Qingtang spoke in a mild manner. That's right, said the youth. Sure. If you can knock me over with one blow, I will hand over the item to you, Yi Qingtang stated. The effeminate-looking youth was momentarily taken aback. He never expected Yi Qingtang to make such a proposition. What are you trying to do? The youth looked bewildered. A smile crossed her face. I am not trying to do anything. I just want to see if you are a worthy opponent for me. I will let you make the first move. If you manage to injure me with that one move, I will concede defeat. But if you can't, Yi Qingtang's words were unexpected. The effeminate-looking had no idea what her underlying intentions were. Nevertheless. No problem. But, let's make one thing clear. You'd better not turn out like the clan chief of the Nanlin clan, dying on me after just one move. I don't want to waste my time finding the item. The youth was very confident in his abilities. Yi Qingtang's heart sank. This youth was indeed the murderer behind the recent massacre of the ancient clans. Are you mad? You are no match for him at all. Little White Tiger growled. It was as jumpy as an ant on a hot stove when it heard Yi Qingtang's suicidal proposition. Yi Qingtang shot Little White Tiger a look that clearly meant for it to calm down, before stepping forward. Trapped by the icicles pierced through his body, Ming Wang was in agony. He wanted to speak when he saw Yi Qingtang step forward but was unable to move a muscle. Holy Lord, this young punk has very strange abilities, Lady Ghost whispered. Yi Qingtang gave a slight nod. She stood before the youth with a mild smile, looking both gracious and benevolent. Please make your move. As the effeminate-looking youth gazed at the Holy Lord of Shadows, the one touted as the most powerful being in the entire mainland, the silver glint in his eyes spread out and overtook his pupils, turning his eyes a stunning shade of silver. His aura increased by several times, becoming even more powerful and oppressive than before. In the next second, the youth suddenly burst out in lavender flames as he struck out at Yi Qingtang. A tremendous, earth-shattering power surged outward and barreled straight towards her. Chapter 1913, Tricks, 1, Narrowing her eyes, Yi Qingtang touched the hem of her sleeve. Boom! With a wave of her arm, the lavender fire crashed into her with no effects. She appeared to have exerted no effort at all. Right before the eyes of everyone, the ferocious lavender flame was instantly changed into a clear blue spring. There were sounds of splashing. Then the clear blue spring waters splashed onto the ground, soaking the earth around Yi Qingtang. Elation danced in the eyes of everyone from the Temple of Shadows who witnessed this scene. Did you really think you had to be worried for me? Yi Qingtang gazed mildly at the undead who had been so anxious for her. Now, those undead just felt like cheering out loud upon seeing Yi Qingtang's grand manner. The Holy Lord is magnificent. Xue Fu hollered. Within seconds, all the undead started cheering for their Holy Lord. The face of the effeminate-looking youth was filled with shock. Only he knew that he had not held back at all in his previous attack. He never expected his cosmic thunderbolt could be so easily disintegrated with just a single wave by the Holy Lord of Shadows. In contrast to his previous arrogance, the youth looked somewhat grim now. Things had always gone his way, how was he to endure this setback? You have already made your move. It ends now. Yi Qingtang raised her brows slightly as she cast a sweeping glance at the youth. The lips of the effeminate-looking youth twitched slightly as a sense of unease rose in his heart. The Holy Lord of Shadows might have gone missing for 10,000 years, but she had once been the most powerful being on the mainland. Yi Qingtang had transformed his all-out attack into a puddle of spring water. His attack did not even come close to touching Yi Qingtang. The youth had never experienced something like this before. Fear of the Holy Lord of Shadows subconsciously crept into the youth's heart. Shifting his gaze, he suddenly leaped up and fled from the Temple of Shadows. The ice encasing Ming Wang disappeared following the departure of the youth. Ming Wang staggered forward, his body full of injuries. Trying to escape. Lady Ghost wanted to pursue the effeminate-looking youth. But she was stopped by Yi Qingtang. Let us take a look at Ming Wang's injuries first. Yi Qingtang spoke magnanimously, but she was heaving a huge sigh of relief on the inside. Thank goodness she had been able to fake her way through this. Yi Qingtang had hidden the mirror of illusions in her sleeve and she was now discreetly placing it back in her space ring. Even now she was thanking the heavens it had worked. There was no way she would be able to defeat the effeminate-looking youth if she were to pit her powers against his. As a result, she had come up with the one-move condition, intending to use the Mirror of Illusions to play a trick on the youth and scare him off. If Lady Ghost dragged him back now, Yi Qingtang would be completely helpless. After all, Ming Wang was already the strongest amongst all the undead at present, and even he was powerless before the youth. If things dragged on, Yi Qingtang would be forced to reveal her bluff. Lady Ghost was taken aback. She immediately assented and turned back to help Ming Wang. But Ming Wang shrugged her aside. "Thank you, Holy Lord, for stepping in. I am useless, please enact your punishment." Despite his heavy injuries, Ming Wang got down on his knees before Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang sighed inwardly at Ming Wang's actions. This person has very strange abilities and an unknown background. Since you already have experienced fighting him, go and investigate his background, Yi Qingtang commanded. This was her way of glossing over Ming Wang's request for punishment. Although Ming Wang frowned slightly, he didn't say anything more. He only accepted her order and retreated immediately. Chapter 1914, Tricks, 2. The way Yi Qingtang had scared the enemy away without even raising a finger made the undead clan of the Temple of Shadows feel as though they were being led by the Holy Lord of Shadows 10,000 years ago again. Under the gaze of the undead clan, Yi Qingtang strolled back into the Grand Hall. While the effeminate youth was an extremely strong opponent in the eyes of the undead of the Temple of Shadow, what did they have to fear now that they had the Holy Lord of Shadows with them? Yi Qingtang only patted her chest in relief after leaving the watchful eyes of the undead clan. Where was this youth from? How could he be so strong? Yi Qingtang felt that there were probably only a handful of people from the entire mainland who could fight with this youth. Meanwhile, Little White Tiger's mouth twisted as it saw Yi Qingtang's guilty expression. "You've got guts. If he had found out that you had used the Mirror of Illusions to trick him, you would have been utterly destroyed in seconds with not even a body left to bury." "Of course. I don't even know what he wanted, and he even defeated Ming Wang. If I hadn't tried such a dangerous move, would the Temple of Shadows and have met with the same fate as the Nanlin clan?" Yi Qingtang knew completely well just how dangerous the mysterious youth was. But she had no choice. The youth was ruthless, having wiped out several clans in succession. There was no way he would have spared them if he realized that they didn't have what he needed. Thank goodness she had managed to trick him. I don't think he is going to just give up. If what he wants is in the Temple of Shadows, he'll be back sooner or later. What are you going to do when you can't use the Mirror of Illusions again? Little White Tiger said with a grimace. Yi Qingtang's head was pounding. Even though they had managed to pull through this time, the youth wasn't going to be easy to deal with. They had no idea when he would be back, and they couldn't use the Mirror of Illusions again within a certain time period. She had to come up with another way to deal with him. Back in her room, Yi Qingtang poured out all the Dharma treasures from her gold-gilded black box. Perhaps there would be something she could use to overcome this crisis. But what she found only made her even more miserable. The items from the Holy Lord of Shadows were all of the highest level, and any one of them were weapons that would frighten heaven and hell. But she couldn't use them. After searching for 2 days and 2 nights and almost going through all of the Holy Lord of Shadows' Dharma treasures, she finally found one that someone of the Paragon level could use. It was a black ring with a black skull on it. Yi Qingtang had no idea what the ring was made of, but it was the only thing that responded to her current power level when she tried it on. Yi Qingtang put the ring on hastily and put the other Dharma treasures into her space ring. Before Yi Qingtang could even take a break to figure out what the ring could do, Xue Fu came to report that the ancient Mu clan and other ancient clans had arrived at the Temple of Shadows, wanting to see the Holy Lord of Shadows. Yi Qingtang was speechless. What in the world was happening now? These ancient clans usually didn't interact with the Temple of Shadows much, but now they were all here at the same time, as though they had coordinated the visit. They were all in the main hall, waiting to see the Holy Lord of Shadows. There was definitely more to this. Chapter 1915, Tricks, 3, There was only one thing that could make them all take action at the same time. The mysterious youth. Yi Qingtang had asked Ming Wang to investigate the origins of the youth but to no avail. Perhaps the other clans would have more information. In the Grand Hall of the Temple of Shadows. The ancient Mu clan leader's expression was mild as his gaze swept across the Bailey family clan, the Dongyue family clan, and a few other ancient clans. These people were all leaders of the various ancient clans in the central mainland. The presence of any one of these leaders was enough to make the earth and mountains quake. Yet they had all appeared here together with complicated expressions. In the past, they would never have all appeared in the Temple of Shadows at the same time. For the past 10,000 years, the disappearance of the Holy Lord of Shadows had caused the Temple of Shadows to grow weak. They had all but forgotten about the undead clan. At the same time, they weren't concerned when they heard about the return of the Holy Lord of Shadows since it had nothing to do with them. However, the peace had been shattered in half a month. This effeminate boy who had appeared out of nowhere had massacred so many strong ancient clans in such a short amount of time, among which included the domain monarch Jiang. The clans that had been attacked had suffered great losses, with many dead and too many injured. Some clans had been completely wiped out. Even the bigger ancient clans which were often at odds with each other had seen the situation for what it was. Someone who destroyed entire clans was not a person they wanted to acknowledge, but it had gotten to a point where they had no other choice. Clan Elder Dongyue, have you checked on the situation of the Nanlin clan? The Mu clan elder asked quietly. It was rumored that the Nanlin clan had been completely wiped out, with all of its members dead. The Dongyue clan and Nanlin clan were rather close to each other and interacted regularly, which meant that they probably knew more about the situation. The rumors are true. I visited the Nanlin clan after everything happened. The truth is, far worse than the rumors. Clan Elder Dongyue sighed. The faces of the members from the other clans darkened. As the strength of the different clans were all head-to-head, the slaughter of the Nanlin clan naturally alarmed the other clans. Yi Qingtang walked in as the clan elders discussed quietly. The entire grand hall fell silent as the clan leaders' gazes all landed on the beautiful figure on the black bone throne. Greetings, Holy Lord of Shadows, the Bailey family clan elder said politely when he saw Yi Qingtang. The other clan elders were polite as well. Yi Qingtang looked at the scene before her, which consisted of some of the most influential clan elders. Her heart was pounding but her face remained calm. To what do I owe the pleasure of having all the clan elders in the Temple of Shadows today? I'm not sure if the Holy Lord has heard, but an extremely formidable person has appeared in the mainland and he has massacred many clans, a clan elder said. I have heard about it, Yi Qingtang said lightly. So she had guessed correctly. They were here because of that. We have heard that this person tried to challenge the Holy Lord of Shadows but was chased away. Chapter 1916, The Spirit of Chaos, 1, What a joke. Would the Holy Lord of Shadows need to even lift a finger to defeat this small fry? An elder of the Temple of Shadows retorted. That arrogant youth had been scared away without the Holy Lord even doing a thing. Not only did the clan elders not get angry, but a smug satisfaction also appeared on their faces. They were here today because they had been pushed into a corner but the youth. A few days ago, they had been informed that the youth had found the Temple of Shadows and they had turned their attention to it. Even though the Holy Lord of Shadows had vanished for over 10,000 years, she had been extremely powerful. They wanted to see if the Holy Lord of Shadows could defeat the youth. The results had pleased them immensely. They had heard that the youth had humiliated himself in front of the Holy Lord of Shadows. He had used all his strength to attack the Holy Lord only for her to brush his attack to the side, then had sent him running away in fear. The clan elders had seen a glimmer of hope and set their egos aside to come here to the Temple of Shadows. The youth is definitely no match for the Holy Lord of Shadows. Back in the past, in order to protect the central mainland, the Holy Lord refused to let the second domain oppress us and went to battle with your armor. You were so strong back then, a member of the Bailey family clan said with a smile. They were filled with praises for the Holy Lord of Shadows. Yi Qingtang grimaced in her head. She already knew what these people wanted. They were just a bunch of sly old foxes. Since they knew that they were no match for the youth, they had all come running to the Temple of Shadows to ask for help. In the past, they didn't want to have anything to do with the Temple of Shadows at all, but were all singing praises right now. What a bunch of hypocrites. Please speak your mind if you have something you want to say. Yi Qingtang knew their intentions well but wanted to get more information from them. It's refreshing to see the Holy Lord speak so frankly. This insolent youth has been causing havoc in the central mainland, causing much trouble to the people. Now he's even undermining the authority of the Temple of Shadows. We beg the Holy Lord of Shadows to take action and purge this evil, a clan elder said as he shook his hands. Even if they refused to accept being below the Temple of Shadows, they had no other choice but to get the Holy Lord of Shadows to deal with the youth. They could say anything if it would ensure their survival. Yi Qingtang was by no means the real Holy Lord of Shadows, but she was no fool and wasn't about to let their words get into her head. You're too lavish with your praise. This youth appears to be alone. With the strength of so many clans, there is no way he'll be able to run amok for long. The expressions of the clan elders all became awkward. To tell you the truth, we did think of dealing with him ourselves. We gathered the strongest people from each clan but, none of them was a match for him. They were all killed. The other clans had tried all sorts of ways to deal with him but were crushed like ants underneath a giant's foot. They were only here because they had been driven into a corner. Yi Qingtang looked at the faces of the clan leader and knew that they must have already exhausted all of their options. How else would they possibly have set aside their pride to come to ask for help? If the real Holy Lord of Shadows was here, destroying the youth would be possible in a matter of seconds, but, she wasn't the real deal and was no match for him. What could she do? Although Yi Qingtang was anxious inside, she maintained her strong facade, not letting anyone see her unease. Chapter 1917, The Spirit of Chaos, 2, Holy Lord of Shadows. Even if you don't care about the mainland, you need to think of the Temple of Shadows. Seeing that Yi Qingtang seemed to have no intention of intervening, a clan elder spoke up. Oh. Yi Qingtang raised her brows slightly. Has the Holy Lord heard of the Spirit of Chaos? The Spirit of Chaos? Yi Qingtang had never heard of it before but could tell from the looks of the clan elders that it was something important. Her heart instantly filled with suspicion and she said, what does that have to do with this? The ancient clan leader said, the Holy Lord should remember that the Spirit of Chaos is the treasure of the gods which had already existed when the second mainland was formed. When the Spirit of Chaos had broken that time, the various clans had fought over it for years, leading to heavy losses until the end when every clan retained a piece. In the beginning, the Holy Lord got a fragment of the Spirit of Chaos from the ancient clans as well. Do you still remember? The Holy Lord of Shadows had a fragment of the Spirit of Chaos. Yi Qingtang was taken aback. So she had gotten this Spirit of Chaos from the ancient clans. Yi Qingtang knew that these clan elders came bearing praises since they wanted help from her. She was just afraid that the Spirit of Chaos fragment had been forcibly taken from them by the Holy Lord of Shadows. That youth is destroying entire clans to obtain that Spirit of Chaos fragment. After a pause, the ancient clan elder continued, at this point, we are all no match for this youth. If we were all destroyed, the Spirit of Chaos fragments in our hands would all be taken by him. At that time, the one left in your hand would be the last, and he will not rest until he has collected it all and will stop at nothing. By that time, it would be too late for the Holy Lord to be righteous. That's right. I don't care if we die or live, but that lad must have a reason for collecting the fragments of the Spirit of Chaos so fanatically. Once he has collected most of the fragments, it would be too difficult for the Holy Lord to do anything, the Bailey family master said. Yi Qingtang had never heard of the spirit of chaos before, but there was no way the clan elders would dare to lie to the Holy Lord of Shadows. It would be better for her if she knew the whereabouts of the spirit of chaos fragment. If push came to shove, she could hand it over to guarantee their safety. But she had no idea where it was. For all she knew, the Holy Lord of Shadows could have taken it with her. I beg the Holy Lord to consider our situation. If you are willing to help us, we will support you completely. Holy Lord, we're afraid you're the only person who can deal with that youth. The group of influential people begged Yi Qingtang incessantly for help. As they did, a complicated feeling sprouted from within Yi Qingtang as she looked at these people alone from her tall throne. If the Holy Lord doesn't want to fight with that youth, what if we let the Dark Lord appear? A clan elder asked cautiously. They couldn't understand why the Holy Lord of Shadows was so unwilling to take action. The Dark Lord? Yi Qingtang was taken aback. What the hell was that? Her gaze swept over to Ming Wang. It couldn't be, were Ming Wang, Ming Gu and Ming Di triplets? That's right, Ming Di is great as well. As the Holy Lord's steed, Ming Di's strength was extraordinary. Why not use him? The Mu family clan leader suggested vehemently. Chapter 1918, The Spirit of Chaos, 3, Yi Qingtang was speechless. The Holy Lord of Shadows' steed. Why had she never heard of this before? Ming Wang frowned when he heard Ming Di's name. You cannot, he said simply. Why not? The clan elders were confused. Why couldn't the Holy Lord of Shadows send her steed if she didn't want to deal with it herself? Ming Di was sealed thousands of years ago by the Holy Lord. Everyone started talking among themselves. No wonder they hadn't seen Ming Di in the battle with the second domain many years ago. It turned out it had been sealed away by the Holy Lord of Shadows. The gazes towards Yi Qingtang grew more intense. Ming Di had arrived in the central mainland at the same time as the Holy Lord of Shadows. When it had first appeared, its mere presence had been terrifying, with no one able to defeat it. It was rumored that Ming Di's strength was on par with the Holy Lord of Shadows. Such powerful steeds should be treated with the utmost care in any ancient clan. Yet the Holy Lord of Shadows had sealed away such a strong being. It was really, so vulgar. Yi Qingtang had no words. She didn't even know what or who Ming Di was. Everyone, I will consider what you have said. Let me think about it in the Temple of Shadows for a day. If this continued, Yi Qingtang was afraid that the clan elders would force her to do something impossible and make use of this opportunity to take control of the situation. While they had not gotten any confirmation from Yi Qingtang, they still held out hope since she had not rejected them outright, which meant that they wouldn't give her any grief today. With further room for discussion, they would back off for now. But Yi Qingtang's heart was in a mess. Based on what she could gather from the ancient clan's words, they were absolutely no match for the youth at all. The situation would probably pan out like what they predicted if this dragged on. Yi Qingtang returned to her room while still pondering the issue at hand. Suddenly, as though she had suddenly recalled something, she took out the voice transmission stone, which she hadn't used for a long time. The voice transmission stone had lost its use after she had entered the cursed mystic realm, and she had subsequently forgotten about it. As she stared at the voice transmission stone, she decided to try contacting something. Ling Yan. The voice transmission stone was quiet for a long time. Just as she thought it was already broken, the voice that she hadn't heard in a while rang out. Miss Yi, are you finally missing me? Yi Qingtang was speechless. It's been a while since I've seen Miss Yi. I thought that you had completely forgotten about me. Ling Yan's voice was laced with laughter. Stop fooling around, I've met with some trouble. It's a long story, but there's something important I need to ask you. Yi Qingtang felt that Ling Yan probably understood the Temple of Shadows more than anyone else. What would Miss Yi like to ask? Ling Yan's voice was lazy. Did you know that the Holy Lord of Shadows had a steed? Yi Qingtang was already thinking about the steed. If it was as strong as the ancient clan elders had said, she might be able to make use of it. You're talking about Ming Di? Yes. So you do know it, Yi Qingtang said in glee. If it's something Miss Yi wishes to know, I will work hard to make sure I can answer your question even if I didn't know the answer. What could she say to that? Couldn't he be more serious? What do you know about Ming Di? Chapter 1919, Ming Di, 1. Ling Yan couldn't help but laugh lightly when he heard the urgency in Yi Qingtang's voice but proceeded to tell her everything he knew about Ming Di. In terms of ranking, the Holy Son of the Temple of Shadows was second only to the Holy Lord of Shadows. But in terms of strength, the one closest to the Holy Lord of Shadows was Ming Di, which had terrorized the entire central mainland in the past. Ming Di was a demonic dragon with an explosive temper and was extremely powerful. In fact, the Holy Lord of Shadows had been riding on Ming Di when she had first arrived in the central mainland. These two extremely powerful beings had come together to push the Temple of Shadows to newfound heights. Ming Di's power was extremely terrifying and many strong men from the ancient clans had been unhappy about how arrogant it was at the start. But they had all been swallowed whole by Ming Di after confronting it. If the Holy Lord of Shadows was the embodiment of power, then Ming Di was the embodiment of terror. But after some time, Ming Di had vanished from the central mainland mysteriously. Why did the Holy Lord of Shadows want to seal Ming Di away if it was so strong? Yi Qingtang found it extremely strange. She had no idea what the Holy Lord of Shadows was thinking. It was probably because they had different beliefs. Different beliefs? That's right. The Holy Lord of Shadows wanted to take control over the entire central mainland, but Ming Di's personality was much more violent and it wanted to destroy everything. Rather than overtake the entire central mainland, Ming Di felt that it was more suitable to simply wipe everything out. Furthermore, Ming Di caused a lot of trouble on Central Road at that time, which caused the Temple of Shadows to have many enemies. As a result, all the major forces almost formed an alliance to oppose the Temple of Shadows, which was completely different from what the Holy Lord of Shadows had envisioned. You know quite a lot about all of this. Yi Qingtang felt like there was nothing Ling Yan didn't know. Because it's the information you need. Yi Qingtang had no words. Is Ming Di really that strong? So strong it could exchange blows with the Holy Lord of Shadows? Yi Qingtang asked. Even if it wasn't the case, the difference in their strength was probably not great, or the Holy Lord of Shadows would have been able to suppress it fully, not just seal it away, Ling Yan said. Yi Qingtang was deliberating over Ling Yan's words and was about to ask him about the spirit of chaos when she heard a sound from his side. Miss Yi, I have something I need to deal with. I speak with you later. Without waiting for Yi Qingtang to respond, Ling Yan cut the connection. Having been interrupted so abruptly, Yi Qingtang looked at the voice transmission stone in her hand with a complicated expression. Her thoughts wandered to Ming Di again. Perhaps she could speak with Ming Gu. Since she rarely called him, he rushed over excitedly when she did. Compared to the cautious Ming Wang, Ming Gu trusted her completely, so she took the chance to discreetly ask him about Ming Di. Just as Ling Yan had said, the Holy Lord of Shadows had sealed Ming Di because its actions were too tyrannical. At the time, it had already made enemies of too many people in the central mainland. Ming Di did not believe in taking over the central mainland and only believed in wiping out all life instead. It relished in the flames of destruction. After many conflicts with the Holy Lord of Shadows and angering her multiple times, the Holy Lord of Shadows sealed Ming Di completely in the abyss prison of the Temple of Shadows. Chapter 1920, Ming Di, 2. From her calculations, Ming Di had already been sealed for over 10,000 years. Even Ming Gu had started to forget about it. Yi Qingtang's mind set to work immediately after hearing the full story. That youth had already set his sights on the Temple of Shadows and it was a fact that all the other ancient clans were no match for him. If he were to attach again, Yi Qingtang would be completely helpless. She couldn't help but direct her thoughts towards the sealed Ming Di. She had no idea if she could even use Ming Di but had no choice but to go with it. The Abyss prison was in the deepest part of the Temple of Shadows. Yi Qingtang sent Minggu and the others away with a few excuses so she could be free to head towards the Abyss prison. To get there, she had to follow a pitch-black path that seemed to have no end. The further she descended, the faster the temperature dropped. The Holy Lord of Shadows had sealed Ming Di personally, which meant that no one could open the Abyss prison other than her. Even though Yi Qingtang had absorbed her power from the finger bone, she wasn't sure whether she could open the Abyss prison. After walking for a long time, Yi Qingtang finally reached the deepest part of the Temple of Shadows. In front of her stood a stone door so huge it was terrifying. With just a glance, she could tell that it was almost 100 meters tall, with strange carvings inscribed on it. "You really intend to release Ming Di?" Little White Tiger glanced at Yi Qingtang with unease. This was dangerous. According to Minggu, Ming Di was indeed very strong. While she didn't know how powerful it was exactly, it would probably be one of the strongest beings in the central mainland. Yi Qingtang was a mere impostor. Even though she had the aura of the Holy Lord of Shadows around her after absorbing the power from the finger bone, the reality was that she was nothing compared to the Holy Lord. Ming Di was sealed here by the Holy Lord of Shadows and probably hates her for it. If its anger blows up on you when you're in there, you won't even have a body left for me to bury. I'm not that stupid. Minggu told me that Ming Di is sealed behind this stone. His powers are completely suppressed unless he can escape from the seal, Yi Qingtang said as she took out a dragon-shaped sculpture from her space ring. The sculpture was the size of her hand and she had found it in the gold-gilded black box along with the other Dharma treasures. Yi Qingtang had tried searching among the Dharma treasures after hearing Minggu's story. Luckily, the Holy Lord of Shadows hadn't removed the seal on Ming Di before she left and Yi Qingtang was able to find it. As long as the seal isn't removed, Ming Di is not leaving these doors. Little White Tiger sighed in relief when it saw that Yi Qingtang had done ample preparation before proceeding with this madness. How do you plan to convince Ming Di? Even the Holy Lord of Shadows couldn't get it to listen to her ideals, so it's not going to be easy for you. How would I know if I don't try? Taking a deep breath, Yi Qingtang approached the stone doors cautiously. She raised her hands and tried infusing the energy that she had gotten from the finger bone into the stone door. A dull sound emanated from the stone door and dust swirled as the doors opened slowly. It was dark behind the stone doors. Yi Qingtang glanced at Little White Tiger, mustered up her courage and walked in. "You really are too brave," Little White Tiger muttered as it guarded the outside for Yi Qingtang. For now, all it could do was wait. Chapter 1921, Ming Di, 3, Behind the stone door lay a vast space. If not for the fact that she had walked so deeply underground before reaching this place, she would never have imagined that such a vast space could be under her feet. She had originally thought that the Holy Lord of Shadows had sealed Ming Di away because she was not happy with it, but after looking at this vast space that it was sealed in, Yi Qingtang felt that the Holy Lord of Shadows may not have hated Ming Di after all. Why else would she have made the place Ming Di was sealed in so vast? After walking some distance in darkness, she heard a deep breath. Soon after, a huge gust of air blew at Yi Qingtang's hair and clothes. "Why have you come here?" A deep voice reverberated in her ears like thunder. Almost subconsciously, she turned to face the source of the voice, her eardrums throbbing. In the blurry darkness, she could vaguely make out a pair of glowing red eyes staring at her. Yi Qingtang glanced at those eyes. A huge, dragon-like shape occupied the darkness in front of her. "Mo Yao, when are you planning to seal me here until?" the huge dragon asked in a low, incensed voice. It had been sealed for over 10,000 years in this dark place. Enough was enough. Mo Yao. Startled, Yi Qingtang recalled how Minggu had addressed the Holy Lord of Shadows. He had called her Ah Yao. Was Mo Yao the Holy Lord of Shadows' real name? Yi Qingtang's mind was racing. She looked at the giant figure half hidden in the darkness and steeled her nerves. Ming Di. The huge dragon scoffed coldly. Danger filled its red eyes as its eyes narrowed. She must have angered it. Looking at its reaction, it was obvious that Ming Di harbored great unhappiness towards the Holy Lord of Shadows. But Yi Qingtang had rushed over because she wanted to know more about Ming Di's strength, as well as the feelings between the Holy Lord of Shadows and Ming Di. She wanted to know if Ming Di's strength was as terrifying as she had heard. There was no need for it to stay by the Holy Lord of Shadows' side at all. It could have left as soon as they had a conflict and did not have to stay to argue with her. Yi Qingtang felt like the feelings between the Holy Lord of Shadows and Ming Di were more complicated than people thought. Yi Qingtang's eyes turned regretful as she thought of this. Ming Di, I was wrong. When Ming Di heard Yi Qingtang's apology, it froze. The smoldering rage it had been feeling all these years seemed unable to assimilate the unexpected words that had come out of her lips. What do you mean? Pinching her thigh, Yi Qingtang made her expression even more somber as she lifted her eyes to look at Ming Di. I used to think that I was right, but now, after 10,000 years, I've come to realize that you were right after all. Ming Di was stunned. Did it hear correctly? You said that I was right. Ming Di looked utterly flummoxed at her revelation. Yes. Yi Qingtang nodded. The savagery in Ming Di's eyes faded as it calmed down. Then surprisingly, it narrowed its eyes, and its expression seemed to be a combination of mirth and something akin to smugness. Mo Yao, you finally understand. You see, I was the one who was correct in the end. What do you mean by advancing gradually and those bullshit strategies? In the face of overwhelming power, all that is useless. You've finally wisened up. Chapter 1922, Unleash the Demon Dragon. 1. Ming Di was clearly pleased by Yi Qingtang's change of heart. Back when Ming Di had fought alongside the Holy Lord of Shadows, Ming Wang and Ming Gu had not even been born. Ming Di was the one who had spent the longest time with the Holy Lord, and their relationship was the deepest. If they had not clashed over the way to handle the central mainland, their relationship would have developed even further. Yi Qingtang heaved a secret sigh of relief when she saw that Ming Di was appeased. It looked like her method was right. Seeing the change in Ming Di's mood, Yi Qingtang took the opportunity to continue. Ming Di, I want to change my ways. I used to place restraints on your actions, but now, I want to allow you free rein in the unification of the entire central mainland. A piercing stare was directed towards Yi Qingtang. Mo Yao, you have changed after so many years. Yi Qingtang was startled. Could Ming Di have discovered her true identity? Before Yi Qingtang could react, Ming Di raised his head. You have finally become smarter. Yi Qingtang, damn, this demon dragon was really arrogant. To think she had been so worried that her identity had been exposed. We wouldn't have fallen out if you had been this smart in the past. Do you know what a terrible time I've had in this abyss prison over the past 10,000 years? Ming Di asked. It definitely bore a grudge. Yi Qingtang knew what Ming Di was thinking, and she put on an apologetic expression. You must have suffered a lot all these years. Humph, glad that you know. Ming Di snorted. Are you sure you understand? Of course. So you won't object again if I kill off all the people in central mainland? Ming Di narrowed his eyes. I already told you that your method is the correct one, Yi Qingtang replied simply. Ming Di looked very pleased. It roared in approval, and the abyss prison vibrated with its booming howl. Very good, Mo Yao. You will soon realize what a great decision you have made in letting me leave this abyss prison. You and me both, we will conquer the entire central mainland. From now on, the undead clan will be the only living creatures in this mainland. Ming Di's voice was full of viciousness. Although it had already suppressed its energy, Yi Qingtang's heart still felt chilled by its aura. She tried to compose herself before speaking. That is good. But now, we have an enemy whom we have to get rid of first. Enemy? Ming Di asked. Ming Di, you have been inside for too long and don't know of the changes in Central Mainland. Not long ago, a mysterious youth in Central Mainland came to challenge the Temple of Shadows. Yi Qingtang told Ming Di of the whole incident, making sure to exaggerate certain details. She glossed over her reason for not destroying the youth then and there, before quickly emphasizing how the enemy had completely disregarded the Temple of Shadows. From what Ming Gu had said before, Ming Di was violent and bad-tempered, but he was the one who had built the Temple of Shadows together with the Holy Lord. Based on that alone, Yi Qingtang believed that Ming Di would never allow anyone to belittle the Temple of Shadows. As expected, Ming Di flew into a great rage after listening to Yi Qingtang's narration. How dare he? How dare a mere human disparage the temple? Mo Yao, you were too soft-hearted. That stinking bug should have been immediately torn to pieces and squashed to death. Chapter 1923, Unleash the Demon Dragon, 2, Yes, yes, yes. Whatever you say. Yi Qingtang was grumbling on the inside, but she maintained her genial expression on the outside. Nevertheless, Yi Qingtang was rather surprised that Ming Di was able to let go of his 10,000-year grudge so quickly. It looked like the relationship between Ming Di and the Holy Lord of Shadows went deeper than she thought. If it was anyone else who had locked Ming Di up, the dragon would have instantly swallowed the person up, no matter how much he tried to beg for mercy. Of course, this was what Yi Qingtang thought inwardly. But how could she have known the long history between Ming Di and the Holy Lord of Shadows? The many bloody battles they had fought alongside each other and the many years they had shared together. So much that as angry as Ming Di was about the Holy Lord imprisoning it, it never really hated him. It only begrudged the Holy Lord for not understanding its intentions. At the end of the day, Ming Di still possessed a pure and simple mind. 10,000 years might be a long time for most people, but it was not that unbearable to a demon dragon with a lengthy lifespan. Now that the Holy Lord of Shadows had finally seen the light and given in, it was natural for Ming Di to feel pleased that its partner had finally returned to its side. Just wait until I get out. I will reduce him to ashes. Ming Di snorted coldly. Looking at Ming Di's arrogant demeanor, Yi Qingtang couldn't help feeling a deep sense of respect for the Holy Lord of Shadows. How formidable she must be to have this demon dragon remain so loyal to her. Inside the Temple of Shadows, the leaders of the ancient clans were discussing how to convince Yi Qingtang to join in the battle. Meanwhile, Ming Wang was quietly observing everything. Suddenly, a huge tremor shook the entire Temple of Shadows. What's happening? The leaders were all shocked. Could it be that person is attacking us again? The leaders exchanged looks before immediately running out of the temple to see what the hell was happening. Ming Wang's expression turned grim. He could feel a familiar aura spreading rapidly through the earth beneath his feet. Holy Sun Ming Wang, what's happening? One of the clan leaders asked again. Ming Wang did not respond and only frowned in silence. Just as everyone was still feeling bewildered, a massive black figure suddenly burst out of the ground in front of the Temple of Shadows. With a sudden boom, a gigantic hole exploded from the ground in front of the Temple of Shadows. A huge black figure flew straight up into the air. It possessed a tremendously oppressive aura and everyone stared after it in a daze. In front of their eyes was a massive dragon spiraling up into the sky. The dragon was exceptionally large and covered the sun, casting the entire Temple of Shadows in the shadows. That is, the leader of the Mu clan stared in shock at the gigantic dragon. His eyes were nearly popping out of their sockets. The black dragon had blood-red eyes and massive wings with glossy black scales. Wasn't this the demon dragon of the Temple of Shadows, Ming Di? Previously, Ming Di had gone on a killing spree in Central Mainland, bringing catastrophic destruction down on countless ancient clans. But in the past 10,000 years, the fearsome demon dragon had suddenly disappeared without a trace. They never expected to once again meet this demon dragon. Upon seeing Ming Di, the frown on Ming Wang's face deepened, but then he was startled when he spotted the dashing figure riding upon Ming Di's back. Ah Yao. Chapter 1924, Unleash the Demon Dragon, 3, Indeed it was Yi Qingtang riding upon Ming Di's back. Her already slender figure looked even smaller in contrast to Ming Di's massive body. As she surveyed the ancient clans gathered down on the ground, all she saw was them staring at her with equally dumbstruck expressions. She immediately felt more steady. She only truly realized just how gigantic Ming Di was the moment she released it. She finally understood why the Holy Lord of Shadows had to construct such a vast abyss prison. Ming Di was huge. There was no way he could have been imprisoned in any place smaller. If Ming Di charged straight down, he would easily flatten the entire Temple of Shadows. Even more shocking was the fact that Ming Di's aura increased by more than tenfold after leaving the abyss prison. Are these the stupid tiny bugs who dared to belittle our Temple of Shadows? Ming Di surveyed the front of the Temple of Shadows with his blood-red eyes. It instantly spotted the tiny ancient clan members. The faces of the tiny ancient clan members immediately darkened on hearing Ming Di's words. What was going on? When did they ever belittle the Temple of Shadows? Utter nonsense. The hearts of everyone leaped in fright at the sight of Ming Di charging toward them with gaping jaws. It's not them. Yi Qingtang hurriedly corrected. She was worried that Ming Di would just swallow the whole bunch of them if she didn't quickly clarify. Whether or not it's them, they have to die anyway. I should just kill them off now. Ming Di didn't care whether they were the culprits. In its eyes, apart from the undead clan of the Temple of Shadows, all other living creatures in the mainland had to die. It was just a matter of sooner or later. It saw no issue with just killing them off now. Yi Qingtang was nearly driven mad by Ming Di's violent character. It really was an insane murderous monster. No wonder the Holy Lord of Shadows had to imprison this fellow. With such a character, it would be making enemies left and right for the Temple of Shadows. Ming Di continued to charge toward those ancient clan members as he spoke. Their faces turned from dark to pale in an instant. Holy Lord, we have no ill intentions at all. We would never dare to belittle the Temple of Shadows. We only have the highest respect for the Holy Lord's powers. Holy Lord, yes, yes, yes. Holy Lord, please be appeased. The ancient clan members had no idea what Yi Qingtang was saying to Ming Di. They only heard the dragon saying that he was going to kill them all, and so they immediately started to beg for mercy. They were here to seek help, not death. They can find the whereabouts of that person. Spare their lives for now so that they can provide us with information. With their mediocre abilities, we can kill them off any time we want. Yi Qingtang understood Ming Di's character. It was impossible to command it not to kill anyone. Even the real Holy Lord of Shadows was unable to do that. As a result, Yi Qingtang decided to play along with Ming Di's insane character. The demon dragon's gaping jaws snapped at the ancient clan members in contemplation, while their hearts were all thumping wildly. From his position on the ground, Ming Wang's eyes darkened and he stared at Yi Qingtang with a conflicted expression. He had seen the Holy Lord of Shadows fighting alongside Ming Di countless times. When the Holy Lord imprisoned Ming Di, he thought there was no way she would ever release Ming Di. He had never expected, in the end, she had still released Ming Di. Chapter 1925, The 8 Tribe Leaders, 1, Where is that person you mentioned earlier? I will kill him first. Having been imprisoned for over 10,000 years, Ming Di's murderous itch had been suppressed for far too long. It couldn't wait to go on a massacre. Its bloodlust could tolerate nothing less. Yi Qingtang was feeling exasperated by Ming Di's desperate urge to kill. She more or less understood now why the Holy Lord of Shadows had to imprison this fellow, its character. If this dragon had been unleashed in Central Mainland without any restrictions, it wouldn't take long before the undead clan was the only clan left on the mainland. I was just investigating his whereabouts. I believe that we will be able to locate him soon. Of course, Yi Qingtang acted as if she greatly approved of Ming Dis' murderous rampage. Let them continue searching. I will not wait beyond 3 days. Ming Dis' eyes turned toward the bunch of ancient clan members. The eyes of the fretful clan members instantly brightened at Ming Dis' words. The Holy Lord is indeed benevolent. Don't worry, we will trace this person's whereabouts immediately. Yi Qingtang, you are all mistaken. Yi Qingtang felt a major headache coming on. She had released Ming Di to prevent the effeminate-looking youth from coming to the Temple of Shadows again. But now, Ming Di was openly seeking him out. Meanwhile, those ancient clan members seemed to have subconsciously overlooked the meaning of Ming Di's final words. I will not wait beyond 3 days. Ming Di planned to slaughter all the living creatures in Central Mainland. What were those fools so happy about? Did they think they were not included? Yi Qingtang felt very helpless. But on second thought, this might be better. First, have those ancient clan folks leave to try and locate that youth. If they failed, she would just have to find another excuse to hold Ming Di back. The ancient clan leaders had no idea what Yi Qingtang was thinking. They just took it to mean that the Holy Lord of Shadows was willing to help. Choosing to see it all as a sign of hope, they quickly ordered their men to go find information about the youth's whereabouts. Yi Qingtang found an excuse to get Ming Di to return to rest up before she returned to the Temple of Shadows. Just after Yi Qingtang had stabilized the earlier situation, the 8 tribe leaders hurried over on hearing that the Holy Lord of Shadows was back. Now they were gathered in one of the temple halls and stared at Ming Wang with heavy expressions. Since the Holy Lord's return, has she mentioned how to deal with the matter of the sacred ground of reflection? The Goblin tribe leader asked. In contrast to Ming Wang, who believed in Yi Qingtang's identity, the 8 tribe leaders continued to view this newly returned Holy Lord with suspicion. They just felt that although this Holy Lord looked the same, there were many differences in the way she handled things since her return. Nothing. Ming Wang spoke without any expression. His tone was perfunctory, as if he wasn't paying much attention. The 8 tribe leaders all noticed Ming Wang's strange behavior and exchanged looks. They knew very well that Ming Wang was completely loyal to the newly returned Holy Lord. It would be futile for them to try and probe for any information from Ming Wang. The situation at the sacred ground of reflection has been pretty chaotic. Since the Holy Lord was willing to form an alliance with the sacred ground of reflection, we should follow her orders on how to handle the matter. Where is the Holy Lord now? Will she have the time to meet us? The demon tribe leader asked. Also, I heard that the human who has been causing trouble in Central Mainland recently turned up at our Temple of Shadows. I wonder if the Holy Lord has said anything about that. Another of the tribe leaders piped up. Chapter 1926, The 8 Tribe Leaders. 2. Ming Wang lifted his eyes and gazed at the tribe leaders. The 8 tribe leaders believed in the mighty powers of the Holy Lord of Shadows. Since the Holy Lord went missing 10,000 years ago, the interactions between tribe leaders and the Temple of Shadows dropped significantly. Without the Holy Lord around, the temple was unable to keep the 8 tribe leaders in line. Even though he was the Holy Son of Shadows, this status alone was still not enough to stand up to the 8 tribe leaders. We will let you know if the Holy Lord of Shadows has any orders for you, Ming Wang said in a low voice. He would not tolerate any doubt toward the Holy Lord. Without waiting for a response from the 8 tribe leaders, Ming Wang got up. I will report your request to meet with the Holy Lord. Meanwhile, just await her orders. With that, Ming Wang turned and left. The 8 tribe leaders stared after Ming Wang's departing figure with dark expressions. That Ming Wang is nothing without the Holy Lord. The demon tribe leader sneered. No need to care about him. With the trouble brewing in the central mainland now, the Holy Lord will make the necessary arrangements. If not, I'm afraid this is not in line with the Holy Lord's character, the Goblin tribe leader said pointedly. It was not a coincidence that the 8 tribe leaders had all gathered here today. If the Holy Lord was genuine, they would naturally be satisfied and go along with everything. If not, they would never let off this impostor. Upon hearing that the 8 tribe leaders had come, Yi Qingtang gave an inward sigh. It was really, one wave of trouble after another. Although the 8 tribe leaders appeared very humble and respectful, Yi Qingtang could feel that they were not completely convinced of her identity. If they had openly shown their doubts, Yi Qingtang could have immediately taken offense and punished all of them. But they were too politically correct, and as much as Yi Qingtang wanted to pinpoint some flaws in their behavior, she could find no concrete basis to do so. But now, Yi Qingtang turned slightly toward the gigantic Ming Di behind her. Those kids are still alive. Ming Di didn't even bat an eyelid. Yi Qingtang was speechless. Kids. Did Ming Di not know the definition of the word, kid? It's been a long time since Ming Di and I have seen them. Just let them come, Yi Qingtang immediately ordered. Ming Wang glanced at Ming Di before turning to leave. Meanwhile, Ming Di picked up a burly demon with its massive claws and popped it into its mouth. Loud crunching noises ensued. If you hadn't stopped me then, I would have already swallowed that fellow. Who? Yi Qingtang was momentarily confused. Lifting one gigantic claw, Ming Di pointed in the direction where Ming Wang had disappeared. Yi Qingtang, are you really that bloodthirsty that you would even swallow your own people? I heard that it is very rare for the undead clan to have twins. I have never tasted one before. I say. Mo Yao, you promised me that after this central mainland situation is resolved, you will return to the second domain with me and help me capture a pair of undead twins so that I can have a taste. I have waited for so long now. After I finish off everyone in central mainland, if you can't find another pair of twins then, don't blame me for helping myself here. Ming Di smirked, revealing rows of sharp teeth. The corners of Yi Qingtang's lips twitched slightly. No wonder she felt that Ming Wang was always looking at Ming Di with such a strange expression. It must be that Ming Di wanted to devour Ming Wang. Yi Qingtang finally understood. No matter what Ming Di felt towards the Holy Lord, it placed the lives of others in complete disregard. Even with the other people in the Temple of Shadows, it felt no sense of kinship to any one of them at all. Chapter 1927, The 8 Tribe Leaders, 3, It was no wonder that no one had taken Ming Di's side all the years since it had been sealed. That's right. Just as Yi Qingtang was struck speechless by Ming Di, the 8 tribe leaders had already rushed over after hearing the news. They didn't understand why the Holy Lord didn't want to meet them at the Grand Hall and instead chose to have them come all the way to the underground palace. All of them turned pale as the doors of the underground palace were pushed open. Ming Di. The 8 tribe leaders looked at the huge dragon beside Yi Qingtang as their faces filled with awe and surprise. Ming Di. The Holy Lord of Shadows steed. Having followed the Holy Lord of Shadows for so many years, they knew all too well about Ming Di's infamous reputation. But never in a million years would they have imagined that the sealed Ming Di would be released so suddenly. This went far beyond their imagination. The 8 tribe leaders who had gone there to test the Holy Lord of Shadows were all of a sudden stunned. They were met with the sight of Yi Qingtang leaning lazily on Ming Di's head as her gaze swept lightly across the 8 tribe leaders. A chill spread through the 8 tribe leaders' bones as Ming Di threw them an unsavory glance. They all subconsciously looked at Ming Wang, who was standing at the side. They wanted nothing more than to kill him right then. Why did he not inform them that Ming Di had been released? Ming Di's terrifying reputation was known not only in the central mainland but also in the Temple of Shadows. The Holy Lord of Shadows was known for her power and wisdom, but Ming Di was known for its cruelty. Even the members of the Temple of Shadows would be reduced to ashes if they upset Ming Di. It didn't care for anyone else other than the Holy Lord of Shadows. And what made it worse was that Ming Di was the only one in the entire Temple of Shadows which came close to the Holy Lord of Shadows' power. It could easily crush the 8 tribe leaders in the blink of an eye. "Greetings, Holy Lord, Ming Di." The demon tribe leader quickly regained his wits and greeted them. The demon tribe leaders gazed towards Yi Qingtang, and Ming Di was filled with horror and respect. All their suspicions towards Yi Qingtang's identity had instantly vanished on seeing Ming Di. After all, the Holy Lord of Shadows was the one who had personally sealed Ming Di away all those years today. Who else could undo the seal? Furthermore, who else would dare stand on Ming Di's head if not the Holy Lord of Shadows? Their suspicions all vanished into thin air as they stood before Ming Di. The other tribe leaders all quickly came to their senses as they heard the demon tribe leaders' greetings, and all suppressed their fear to greet them politely. They could still afford to relax a little in front of the Holy Lord, but in front of Ming Di, God knows when they would say something wrong and be vanquished by this powerful dragon. Yi Qingtang breathed a sigh of relief as she saw the last of their suspicion vanish as they stood before Ming Di. Who knew that Ming Di would have this kind of an effect as well? However, Yi Qingtang looked at the reactions of the 8 tribe leaders. They were filled with awe and unease. What exactly had Ming Di done in the Temple of Shadows? How was it scaring the 8 tribe leaders so badly? She couldn't help but think of how Ming Wang wanted to devour Ming Wang and Ming Gu. Chapter 1928, The Return, 1. The reactions of the 8 tribe leaders were not exactly positive. Yi Qingtang couldn't help but think that everyone in the Temple of Shadows had probably been celebrating after Ming Di was sealed. What is it? Yi Qingtang suppressed the curiosity in her heart and asked lightly. The 8 tribe leaders were all extremely respectful now, with no intention of testing her again. Holy Lord, there has been a lot of activity in the sacred ground of reflection today. We are not sure of the Holy Lord's intentions and wanted to ask for advice, the demon tribe leader said cautiously. The sacred ground of reflection? Yi Qingtang was stunned for a little while before remembering it. Ling Yan's problem had dragged both the Temple of Shadows and the sacred ground of reflection in previously, but Yi Qingtang hadn't paid much attention to it. After all, to her, the most important thing to deal with right now was that youth. Do you really need me to tell you how to deal with something so small? Yi Qingtang said as she lifted her eyes lightly. The 8 tribe leaders stood in stunned silence as their expression became awkward. They had originally wanted to use this to test Yi Qingtang's identity, but now that Ming Di had been released, what else was left for them to determine? Seeking guidance on this matter would only show how limited their abilities were. We seek your forgiveness, Holy Lord. We are the ones who are weak. Yi Qingtang waved her hand dismissively. She had already achieved her goal of alleviating the 8 tribe leaders' suspicions. Just as Yi Qingtang was thinking about whether Ming Di would be powerful enough, news came from the ancient clans. In the time since they had last seen that youth, he had wiped out a few other ancient clans. They had all been slaughtered when the news had reached the ancient clans, with no trace of the boy left. The clan leaders were all worried sick when they heard this, afraid that they would be his next target. Those who had been sent out were all finding all sorts of excuses and trying their best to stay in the Temple of Shadows. This was the first time Yi Qingtang was witnessing the ancient clan's shamelessness, and she was honestly impressed by it. As more and more ancient clans in the mainland were attacked, the ancient clans who had heard the news had all come running to the Temple of Shadows to hide. It was not surprising, since the Temple of Shadows was the only place the youth had suffered a setback and was their last hope. Yi Qingtang's lips twitched as she saw how many ancient clans were running to them for shelter. Where was their pride? Where was the strong foundation that they had built? Were they not embarrassed by themselves? Now that they had confirmed her identity, the 8 tribe leaders were willing to follow all of Yi Qingtang's orders. However, their expressions were ugly as they looked at the horde of ancient clans flocking to the Temple of Shadows. The ancient clans had already laid down their pride and would not leave no matter how much they were chased away. Because of all the trouble the youth was causing, the Temple of Shadows was gradually regaining its top position from over 10,000 years ago. It was turning into a symbol of power in the eyes of the people again. Their attitude was just like when the second domain had attacked them over 10,000 years ago. Once again, the ancient clans were looking to the Temple of Shadows to lead them. The peace that they had was suddenly shattered with the arrival of 2 people. 2 figures landed outside the Temple of Shadows. They were 2 young men of approximately the same age. One of them was the effeminate-looking youth that Yi Qingtang had previously scared off with her mirror of illusions. Beside him was a tall and coldly handsome young man. Chapter 1929, The Return. 2. Senior brother, the ancient clans from the central mainland have all hidden in the Temple of Shadows. The effeminate-looking youth looked at the cold, handsome young man beside him. Compared to the previous time, he looked a lot less arrogant now. The cold and handsome young man scanned the Temple of Shadows and threw the effeminate-looking youth a scathing glance. He understood the look immediately and flew up to attack the undead clan. The clan elders were all gathered in the grand hall of the Temple of Shadows, looking at Yi Qingtang who was sitting above them and Ming Di which had shrunk itself and was standing beside her. Holy Lord, we do not wish to bother you but that boy is a huge thug and has already wiped out many ancient clans during this period. If this continues, who knows how much destruction he will cause in the central mainland, an ancient clan leader told Yi Qingtang bitterly. They didn't want to hide here in the Temple of Shadows but each day the youth wasn't defeated was a day they couldn't feel at ease. As Yi Qingtang rested her chin on her hand, her eyes looked at the bitterness on the ancient clan people's faces. The 8 tribe leaders looked extremely displeased at the ancient clans who had come for their support as well. Now they all wanted to rely on the Temple of Shadows. After the disappearance of the Holy Lord of Shadows, these ancient clans had all abandoned the Temple of Shadows. Yet they were all relying on the temple now. Wasn't this too shameless of them? As the 8 tribe leaders opened their mouths to speak, a huge roar came from outside the Temple of Shadows. A guard from the undead clan ran in hurriedly to report. Holy Lord, the boy is back. Yi Qingtang was stunned. He was back. What was going on? The faces of the ancient clan people all lit up. They had still been agonizing over how they could get the Holy Lord of Shadows to get rid of that youth as soon as possible. And now he had walked right up to their doorstep. Holy Lord, this youth is too arrogant. Please seek justice for us. How dare he come here again? Holy Lord, he's blatantly disrespecting you. The ancient clan people were fanning the flames as much as they could. Yi Qingtang's expression changed subtly. The youth shouldn't have been back so quickly after being scared away. So why was he here today? An ominous feeling arose in her heart as it started pounding. But before she could speak, Ming Di shook its wings and a fire was lit in its red eyes. Just in time. Ming Di laughed and flew out of the Temple of Shadows. Yi Qingtang was speechless. Could it just calm down a little? Although she knew Ming Di was strong, the youth's power was terrifying as well. Who knew whether Ming Di was a match for him at all? And now he had just rushed in for the kill before she had said anything. She had no words but the ancient clan people's eyes all brightened when they saw Ming Di rush out. That's amazing, Holy Lord. I want to see how Ming Di is going to reduce that arrogant boy to ashes. Yi Qingtang didn't know how to respond. It was fine, as long as they were happy. Even if Yi Qingtang was feeling extremely uneasy, she couldn't give any more excuses now that Ming Di had made its move. After all, Ming Di had already gathered all its murderous intent these past few days. Yi Qingtang doubted that she could hold it back, even if she wanted to. Chapter 1930, The Return. 3. Yi Qingtang led the group of ancient clan people after Ming Di, with the 8 tribe leaders and the rest following after them as well. The effeminate-looking youth was desecrating everything in his path outside the Temple of Shadows. The horde of undead clan soldiers barely lifted a hand before they were all annihilated like sacks of rotting meat. Xue Fu approached first. Knowing full well the strength of the youth, he didn't rush forward and instead looked solemnly at the arrogant boy in front of him. "Ask your holy lord to come out. I didn't get to fight her properly the last time and I want to test her strength properly today." The effeminate-looking youth raised his brows and demanded of Xue Fu. Xue Fu's face darkened and he laughed coldly. "Who do you think you are? Weren't you the one who was too afraid to fight our holy lord that day and ran away with your tail in between your legs? Are you here to seek your own death today?" The blatant insult seemed to hit a nerve, and the effeminate-looking youth narrowed his eyes as his gaze brushed past the cold young man behind him. Seeing that he was expressionless with his hands crossed around his chest, he declared, "I had something else I had to deal with that day." "Who said I ran? Is your holy lord too scared to face me today?" Just as Xue Fu was about to retort sarcastically, a huge black shadow rushed out from within the Temple of Shadows. Xue Fu couldn't help but feel delighted to see that figure. Where did this little brat come from? How dare he speak such big words in front of my Temple of Shadows? With a flourish of wings, Ming Di landed in front of Xue Fu, his red eyes scanning the ground filled with soldiers from the undead clan. "And who are you? I have no interest in wasting my time on you. Get the Holy Lord to come out right now." The effeminate-looking youth looked impatiently at the dragon in front of him. The only person he was concerned about in the entire Temple of Shadows was the Temple of Shadows, but he had nothing to fear since his senior brother was here today. Ming Di's eyes flashed. Seeing how the boy in front of it didn't recognize it at all, it was suddenly reminded that it had been sealed for over 10,000 years. At this moment, Yi Qingtang had also arrived with the others in tow. This little brat dared to return. Little White Tiger muttered as it saw the youth once again killing everything in his path. Yi Qingtang didn't rush to speak and instead looked at the youth and the stranger behind him. The man was a cold and handsome young man. Compared to the effeminate-looking youth, he seemed much calmer. But their clothes were similar and Yi Qingtang guessed that he had probably been called to assist. No wonder the little rascal had dared to come back so quickly. He had found someone to help him. "Holy Lord of Shadows, I was caught up in something else the other day, but let's have a proper battle today. Hand over what I want if you lose," the effeminate-looking youth demanded again. The reactions of 8 tribe leaders as they saw the arrogant youth were vastly different from the reactions of the ancient clan leaders. What did this little brat come from? How dare he impersonate the Holy Lord? He's probably sick of living. A cold laugh ripped out from the demon tribe leader's lips. "And who are you?" "I was talking to the Holy Lord of Shadows." "You have no right to speak here," the effeminate-looking youth said. The demon tribe leader had never been treated with such ridicule before. As one of the 8 tribe leaders, everyone treated him with the utmost respect. It was time to teach the brat a lesson. With one great leap, the demon tribe leader rushed towards the effeminate-looking youth. Chapter 1931, Battle My Steed First, 1. The effeminate-looking youth didn't look remotely worried as the demon tribe leader rushed at him. He lifted his arm and shot a beam of cold light at the elder leader. The demon tribe leader panicked, not expecting the weak youth in front of him to attack with so much power. He had no time to react at all as the beam of light shot towards him. Just as the light was about to hit him, a small hand pushed the demon tribe leader to the side and he managed to escape the fatal attack. Ming Wang. The demon tribe leader looked at Ming Wang in surprise. Ming Wang looked solemnly at the effeminate youth who had once humiliated him. "Another loser. I've already said that I'm not interested in wasting my time on you. Holy Lord of Shadows, if you insist on not attacking, I'm going to kill off every single person from the undead clan." The effeminate-looking youth didn't even give the demon tribe leader and Ming Wang a second glance, instead focusing all his attention on Yi Qingtang. "You're no match for him," Ming Wang told the demon tribe leader. The demon tribe leader wanted to retort, but fear still lingered in his heart at the thought of that young man's attack. He should consider himself lucky. "If my powers aren't suppressed because I'm in the central mainland right now, there would be no place for his arrogance," the demon tribe leader said through clenched teeth. But he had to admit that his current strength was no match for this youth. "Holy Lord, look at how arrogant this boy is. We implore the Holy Lord to not show mercy and end him." Seeing the effeminate-looking youth act so presumptuously in front of Yi Qingtang, the ancient clan took this opportunity to fan the flames. Yi Qingtang was speechless. "This bunch of old foxes." The effeminate-looking youth's lips twisted as he looked at the ancient clans hiding behind the Holy Lord of Shadows. "I was wondering how the ancient clans in the central mainland had all vanished just like that. To think that you all ran here to hide like the rats you are. Did you think that you would be safe if you hid behind the Holy Lord of Shadows? What a joke. You'll all be next after I deal with the Holy Lord of Shadows. You damned brat, you're not worthy to be compared with the Holy Lord." Empowered by Yi Qingtang's presence and angered by the effeminate-looking youth's words, the ancient clans all shouted back at him. "With your ability, you're not even qualified to carry the Holy Lord's shoes." Emboldened, the ancient clans continued scolding the youth. The effeminate-looking youth's expression was darkening as well. A hurricane suddenly rose from his feet, sweeping up the ground all around him as his eyes changed color. "Are you all done? You bunch of trash, I'll make sure that none of you leave with your lives. I don't have time to deal with you now. Holy Lord of Shadows, do you dare to fight me?" Yi Qingtang looked expressionlessly at the angered youth. Meanwhile, the surrounding ancient clans and the 8 tribe leaders all turned to look at Yi Qingtang. Still she remained silent. They were running their mouths so freely just now. To think there was not a peep from them now. Lifting her eyes lightly, Yi Qingtang looked at the effeminate-looking youth and said, "You're not qualified enough for me to make a move." Her dismissive words made him stiffen as his expression darkened further. "Are you sure you're not just scared? I see that the Holy Lord of Shadows is just a coward. I would only dirty my hands if I were to fight a person who ran from a battle." Chapter 1932, Battle My Steed First, 2, the face of the effeminate-looking youth turned extremely surly. It was obvious that the Holy Lord of Shadows was mocking him for being scared off earlier. "You." Yi Qingtang didn't wait for him to complete his sentence and only continued calmly, "If you can win against my steed, I will give you another chance to challenge me." The moment Yi Qingtang uttered those words, Ming Di, who had been suppressing his rage the whole time, finally emitted an earth-shattering roar. "Our Holy Lord has no time to play with a little brat like you. Let me test your abilities first." Ming Di's eyes burned with an aggressive fire. He had been waiting for Yi Qingtang to give him the go-ahead all this time. "Are you insulting me?" The effeminate-looking youth glanced at Ming Di before sneering. The undead clan and members of the ancient clans were completely dumbstruck by the youth's words. "He's just a mere steed and he wants to be my opponent. Holy Lord of Shadows, you are really belittling me, aren't you?" the effeminate-looking youth stated coldly. "Amresteed?" Ming Di narrowed his eyes. The people in the ancient clans all swallowed hard. Even the arrogant 8 tribe leaders stole discreet glimpses at the dangerous glint in Ming Di's gaze. They had seen people with a death wish before, but none as foolhardy as this youth. In the entire central mainland, this youth was the first person who dared to disregard Ming Di in such a bold manner. They saluted his bravery. Ming Di spoke, "The Holy Lord has spoken. If you believe you can defeat me, then you will definitely be able to challenge the Holy Lord. If you are that confident, the Holy Lord will step up." The effeminate-looking youth was clearly still very doubtful of this mere steed, but he did not say anything further. He only turned toward the silent, grim-faced youth standing behind him. The grim-faced youth studied Ming Di. The two of them were still young while Ming Di had been locked up for over 10,000 years. As a result, unlike the other ancient clan folks, they had not heard of Ming Di's fearsome reputation. In their eyes, Ming Di was just the steed of the Holy Lord of Shadows. The grim-faced youth sized up Ming Di and a strange light flashed across his eyes. But he didn't say anything and just nodded at the effeminate-looking youth. Having gotten his senior brother's assent, the effeminate-looking youth spoke again, "All right then. I will honor the Holy Lord's wishes and play with your steed. But Holy Lord, let me make one thing clear, don't blame me if I accidentally kill your steed." The effeminate-looking youth's tone was full of arrogance. The 8 tribe leaders couldn't help breaking out in cold sweat for him. They secretly glanced at Ming Di, who was already narrowing his eyes once again. "Punk, you are truly gifted at seeking death." Yi Qingtang had no idea how powerful Ming Di was. She just hoped he would be able to stop this youth. But now, it was the cold and grim-faced youth who was worrying her. He was clearly of a higher rank than the effeminate-looking youth. Otherwise, why would he seek the permission of that person? Ming Di lunged forward with a roar. His massive black wings covered the sky, but the effeminate-looking youth remained unmoved. He just stood there, waiting for the opportunity to quickly finish off this steed, and force the Holy Lord of Shadows to step in. "Brat, seeing that you have some abilities, I will let you make the first move," Ming Di offered grandly. A look of disdain crossed the effeminate-looking youth's face as he snorted. "I am afraid you cannot even withstand my move." Chapter 1933, Battle My Steed First, 3, No worries, I have a thick and tough hide. Ming Di's voice was tinged with amusement. That amused tone drifted into the ears of the 8 tribe leaders, making their hairs stand on end. How many years had passed since they had heard that eerie, smiling tone? The effeminate-looking youth clearly didn't think much of Ming Di. Leaping into the air, he conjured a huge dragon with his hands, before directing it straight at Ming Di. Ming Di remained standing steadily where he was, as he looked at the approaching dragon. In the next second, boom! The fire dragon crashed into Ming Di, sending sparks flying all over. The earth-shaking sound nearly shattered the eardrums of everyone present. The effeminate-looking youth smirked as he watched Ming Di being engulfed by the flames. "Aya, it's so hot. I am nearly dying from the heat," a low voice suddenly sounded out from the blaze. The face of the effeminate-looking youth shifted. He watched as the flames were suddenly extinguished before his eyes and Ming Di emerged. A few tiny flames were still burning upon his black dragon scales. Lifting one claw, Ming Di blew out the lingering flames with a snort of its nostrils. The effeminate-looking youth was thunderstruck. The 8 tribe leaders nearly laughed out loud at the sight. Their faces turned red from the effort of suppressing their laughter. "Kid, you shouldn't play with fire. Were you trying to burn me to death?" Ming Di glanced at the effeminate-looking youth in provocation. The youth studied the jet-black Ming Di, but couldn't see if he was injured at all. He had wanted to kill Ming Di with just one blow as he was impatient to get this over with. Seeing that Ming Di was still standing and talking, the youth leaped into the air and burst into flames. In the blink of an eye, balls of fire rained down from the sky. The fireballs were the size of a human head and pounded hard against Ming Di's body. Ming Di was a large creature. It raised one limb to try and avoid the dense rain of fire, but to little success. As the fireballs pelted him relentlessly, Ming Di cried out as if in great pain. "Ah, painful, so painful," Ming Di was crying out, but his arm only moved in a half-hearted manner. The effeminate-looking youth smirked as he watched the wailing Ming Di. He didn't realize how the 8 tribe leaders were already staring at him with pity. By the side, Yi Qingtang was astounded by the sight of Ming Di, who looked as if he had no intention of retaliating. But observing the smile on the effeminate-looking youth, she suddenly realized what was happening. Just as Yi Qingtang seemed to have understood something, a layer of frost covered Ming Dis's body. Yi Qingtang had seen this move before. It was the very move that had defeated Ming Wan. In the blink of an eye, Ming Dis's massive body was encased in a layer of ice. The effeminate-looking youth's smile deepened as he gazed at the trapped Ming Di. So it seems that the steed of the Holy Lord of Shadows is so mediocre. He patted the layer of ice. You've trapped me in a layer of ice, Ming Di said. The effeminate-looking youth lifted his chin. Don't worry, I will end your suffering very soon. Don't blame me after you die. Just blame the Holy Lord for sending you to your death. You want to kill me? Ming Di asked in an incredulous tone. Of course. A murderous glint flashed across the eyes of the youth. He patted the layer of ice again and icicles suddenly shot out and pierced all over Ming Di. Chapter 1934, A Crushing Defeat. 1. Panic flashed past Ming Dis's eyes the moment the icicles penetrated his body. He appeared to be in great pain. A venomous smile appeared on the face of the effeminate-looking youth. He stared fixedly at Ming Di, who was in apparent agony. Ming Di widened his eyes. With a sudden shift in his gaze, he opened his massive jaws slightly. Aya, so painful. Ming Dis's voice was completely devoid of any pain. As his jaws moved, the layer of ice encasing him suddenly cracked. Before the effeminate-looking youth could react, the layer of ice shattered and fell to the ground in pieces. The icicles failed to penetrate even half an inch into Ming Dis's dragon scales. All the icicles looked like they had been grounded down, leaving only half the original length behind. The effeminate-looking youth's smile also broke along with the remnants of ice. As understanding slowly dawned upon him, he widened his eyes and stared at the completely unharmed Ming Di. How is that possible, really, so painful? Ming Di shrugged and the remaining ice shards on its body fell to the ground. Those blood-red eyes were half-closed in a lazy manner filled with indolence. Although the effeminate-looking youth was a fool, it was only now that he finally understood what had happened. You tricked me. He gritted his teeth as he glared at Ming Di. So what? I'm going to kill you. The effeminate-looking youth hollered in rage. With that, he burst into raging flames and his eyes were now completely silver in color. He looked like a demon incarnate. As Yi Qingtang observed the changes, she could clearly feel the aura of the youth increase over 2 times. Holy Lord, this youngster's aura feels off. The demon tribe leader had acute senses and felt the changes too. Powerful practitioners had their secret ultimate move. They would break through their own boundaries when forced into a desperate corner. But this effeminate-looking youth gave off a completely different vibe. The energy felt incompatible with his body, as if he was not using his own power. Yi Qingtang was also able to detect the striking change. But her attention was not on that effeminate-looking youth. Instead, she was discreetly observing the grim-faced youth behind. That youth had maintained a neutral expression the whole time while Ming Di was playing a trick on his partner. He had remained impassive even when he saw that Ming Di was unharmed. It was like, he already realized Ming Di was just fooling his partner. Meanwhile, the skin of the effeminate-looking youth had turned a sickly shade of white. The blood vessels under his skin could be clearly seen, making it look like a dense network of black lines had spread throughout his body. With a bellow of rage, the effeminate-looking youth charged toward Ming Di. Ming Di stood there calmly, before spreading his black wings slightly. 2 black tornadoes spun out from his wings toward the youth. The moment the tornadoes appeared, the grim-faced youth shifted. A beam of cold light shot out before the eyes of the crowd. Boom! The beam of light collided with the tornadoes. The surrounding earth felt like it would be shattered by the resulting energy. Senior brother, you didn't have to help me. I can deal with this. The effeminate-looking youth didn't expect his senior brother to make a move. For a moment, he felt somewhat humiliated. After all, he had invited his senior brother to deal with the Holy Lord of Shadows. How could he have his senior brother step in against a mere steed? Chapter 1935, A Crushing Defeat. 2. The Holy Lord of Shadows had yet to make any moves. It would be a great loss of face to him if he had to rely on his senior brother when he was just battling her mere steed. The effeminate-looking youth wanted to speak again, but the grim-faced youth slapped him right across the face. "Fool, are you still unable to see the vast disparity between your power and that of the demon dragon?" The face of the effeminate-looking youth turned pale, but he didn't dare to retort. The grim-faced youth glanced past Ming Di to land on Yi Qingtang. He continued in a low voice. "Instead of wasting time, you should finish off this demon dragon with me. The Holy Lord of Shadows is our true target." Not daring to say another word, the effeminate-looking youth immediately nodded. "Oh. Two of you at once. That's even better." The fire in Ming Di's eyes burned even brighter at the sight of another opponent. The leaders of the ancient clans couldn't help feeling rather nervous at the thought of the other youth joining the battle. "Holy Lord, is it really fine to let Ming Di handle this battle alone?" They had experienced the power of the effeminate-looking youth. And this second youth was clearly even stronger. Would Ming Di be able to cope? The corners of Yi Qingtang twitched imperceptibly as she gazed at the anxious ancient clan members. "That's easy for you to say. Go ahead and help Ming Di if you can. Who are you doubting? That is Ming Di you are talking about." The demon tribe leader snorted coldly. The ancient clan leaders instantly retreated. They did not dare to argue with the demon tribe leader. In the end, they couldn't even defeat that effeminate-looking youth, not to mention the other one. Ming Di gazed at the two youths standing before him. He appeared to have no intention of making the first move. The two youths exchanged a look and immediately went into full battle stances. In the blink of an eye, the aura of the effeminate-looking youth surged again. His eyes were filled with a cold, harsh light while the flames around his body morphed into a massive burning Buddha figure. What kind of skill is that?" The ancient clan leaders widened their eyes in disbelief at the sight of that flaming Buddha figure. They had never witnessed such a strange move. The youth leaped into the air and merged into the flaming Buddha figure. A huge orange fire also appeared behind the grim-faced youth, which morphed into a gigantic flying dragon. His dragon was twice the size of Ming Di. The raging flames soared high into the sky and the powerful aura was so oppressive that the ancient clan folks found it difficult to breathe. What kind of powerful force was this? The ancient clan members at present were all elite practitioners in the central mainland. But now, as mere observers on this battlefield, they were already having trouble breathing from the mighty aura radiated by those two youths. Yi Qingtang also felt her chest grow heavy. Luckily she had recently risen to the paragon level. If she was still at the heavenly venerate level, she would likely have exposed her true identity. As such, Yi Qingtang and the 8 tribe leaders were powerful enough to withstand the aura. But those soldiers of the undead clan were already collapsing from the powerful energy. One by one, they fell to the ground in spasms, their bones clattering non-stop. The aura of those two youths was enough to shatter the bones of the undead. A sliver of impatience surfaced in Ming Di's eyes as he gazed at the flaming Buddha figure and flying dragon. "And I thought you guys were going to be interesting, boring." Ming Di suddenly opened its jaws wide and gave an earth-shattering roar. Chapter 1936, A Crushing Defeat. 3. Roar. The flaming Buddha and flying dragon figures were instantly extinguished by Ming Di's powerful roar. At the same time, the two youths, who had merged into their flaming figures, plummeted straight down into the ground. Blood spurted out of their mouths at the moment of impact. Before they could even try to struggle to get up, a massive black shadow suddenly appeared before them. Ah! Terrible shrieks resonated across the otherwise silent battlefield. Ming Di had driven two sharp claws into their abdomens and pinned them to the ground. Fresh blood poured out of their wounds and dyed the earth beneath them a deep red. "Punks, you two have provoked the wrong people." Ming Di gazed down imperiously at the two youths. It was as though he was looking down at two tiny ants. The effeminate-looking youth continued to vomit blood and his face turned increasingly pale as he stared at Ming Di in disbelief. It was impossible. He couldn't believe the fact that he hadn't been able to withstand even a single blow from Ming Di. How many ancient clan people had perished in his hands? Countless powerful practitioners had died in the face of his mighty power. But now, the effeminate-looking youth finally understood the taste of fear. This demon dragon was not something they could even dream of defending against. All his aura vanished without a trace at this moment. The ancient clan members, who had been gasping from the overwhelming aura, were now staring dumbfounded at Ming Di. They had been so fearful of those two youths, but the demon dragon was now stepping on them like they were insignificant little ants. If they hadn't witnessed it with their own eyes, they would never have believed the wide disparity in power. As they turned instinctively toward Yi Qingtang, their eyes were full of awe and respect. The Holy Lord of Shadows had disappeared for 10,000 years. Those of them in Central Mainland had nearly forgotten the fear that the Holy Lord used to inspire. The Holy Lord is truly great. Those youths were indeed no match for the Holy Lord. One of the ancient clan leaders discreetly wiped off his cold sweat as he addressed Yi Qingtang with utmost respect. "Yi Qingtang, was this demon dragon that powerful?" No wonder the Holy Lord was unwilling to step in. They were unworthy. Finally snapping out of their daze, the other ancient clan folks also started to laud Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang cast a mild look in their direction but otherwise remained silent. Inwardly, she felt that she had gained yet another layer of understanding of just how formidable Ming Di and the Holy Lord of Shadows were. No wonder the Holy Lord of Shadows had been touted as the most powerful being in Central Mainland. Just Ming Di alone was enough to destroy a good number of the elite practitioners in Central Mainland. Now that Ming Di had overcome those two youths, Yi Qingtang wanted to get more information from them. She had a feeling that there was a greater power behind these two youths. Otherwise, given their young age, how could these two youngsters possibly know so much? Just as Ming Di was prepared to swallow them both, Yi Qingtang spoke up. "I want them alive." Ming Di looked very unhappy, but he still shut his jaws. The grim-faced youth saw that they were no match for Ming Di. He started gathering his energy again and just as everyone thought he was going to make a last-ditch attempt to fight back, he suddenly turned and directed his attack on the dying, effeminate-looking youth. The effeminate-looking youth never imagined that he would die at the hands of his own people. He died with his eyes wide open as he choked on his final breath. Chapter 1937, The Mastermind Behind It All, 1, You Still Dare to Resist? Ming Di was enraged. How dare this fellow kill off its prey right? A light flashed across the eyes of the grim-faced youth as he watched his partner draw his last breath. As Ming Di raged on, the youth suddenly dug his own hands into his chest and tore it apart. He moved so quickly that Yi Qingtang could not react in time. Did he go mad? The ancient clan leaders were all bewildered. But the moment that youth tore open his own chest, a nearly imperceptible wisp of smoke suddenly flew out from his heart. The wisp of smoke moved very quickly and disappeared within the blink of an eye. Trying to escape. Ming Di narrowed its eyes. Opening his jaws wide, he inhaled deeply. With one powerful intake of breath, Ming Di sucked the dissipating smoke right into its belly. Yi Qingtang wanted to stop him but could only stare on as Ming Di's throat bobbed up and down. Oh no, he already swallowed it. Stupid little bug. Ming Di snorted coldly. Lifting its claws, it tossed the two limp corpses across the ground. Yi Qingtang felt a headache coming on. That grim-faced youth was clearly trying to eliminate his partner and escape, to prevent themselves from being interrogated. Ming Di didn't let him escape, but the youth still managed to achieve his goal. Go and check if there are any clues on their bodies. Yi Qingtang suppressed the exasperation she was feeling. This Ming Di was very powerful, but its character could only be described by one word: impulsive. With the undead clan in tow, Ming Wang went forward to investigate the bodies of the two youths. They discovered some random Dharma artifacts and a fragment of the spirit of chaos in their space rings. Yi Qingtang's heart quivered when she accepted the spirit of chaos fragment from Ming Wang. The spirit of chaos fragment was palm-sized and no different from any ordinary-looking black metal. But holding it in her hand, Yi Qingtang felt no weight at all. It was as if this fragment didn't exist. The ancient clan members felt very envious when they saw that Yi Qingtang had discovered a fragment of the spirit of chaos. It must be pointed out that each of the ancient clans owned just one fragment of the spirit of chaos, and everyone would wish to possess more pieces. But at present, the ancient clan members wisely kept quiet. They silently acquiesced to the fact that this fragment belonged to the Temple of Shadows. After personally witnessing Ming Di's power, no one would dare to make an enemy of the Temple of Shadows unless they were insane. It was Yi Qingtang's first time seeing the spirit of chaos. She had spent a long time trying to find the fragment belonging to the Holy Lord of Shadows but failed to locate it. Despite being very curious, Yi Qingtang had to pretend to be nonchalant. She just gave it a few casual looks before placing it into her space ring. Holy Lord, we couldn't find any accessories on the bodies, but we did find a sort of symbol. Xue Fu stepped forward to report. Oh, what symbol? Yi Qingtang asked. Xue Fu had his men drag over the bodies of the youths. Both youths had a palm-sized circular symbol tattooed in the middle of their backs. The symbol did not look familiar. Yi Qingtang had never seen such a symbol before. Do any of you recognize this symbol? Yi Qingtang looked toward the ancient clan members and the 8 tribe leaders. The 8 tribe leaders stepped forward to take a look. But they were likewise puzzled and shook their heads before retreating to the side. The ancient clan members also took a look, but none of them had seen such a symbol before either. Chapter 1938, The Mastermind Behind It All. 2. No one recognized the symbol. Yet another lead had come to a dead end. Yi Qingtang gave an inward sigh. Just as she was about to order her men to look over the bodies again, one of the ancient clan elders suddenly spoke up. Holy Lord, this symbol looks very strange. Yi Qingtang was taken aback. Speak. The elder didn't know how to explain it. Instead, he copied the symbol on a piece of paper, before adding a few strokes to the drawing. As the elder added more strokes, the faces of the crowd changed. Isn't this the family crest of the ancient Yu clan? One of the clan leaders widened his eyes in astonishment after the elder finished his drawing. That's right. I initially found the symbol rather familiar, but couldn't understand why. But then I suddenly realized that this symbol is quite similar to the family crest of the ancient Yu clan, the elder explained. I heard before that the ancient Yu clan secretly groomed a batch of kamikaze soldiers. They were all exemplary youths selected from the various branches of the ancient Yu clan. The youths were brought to an unknown place for special training. Even their own parents don't know where they were taken. Another ancient clan leader frowned as he spoke. It was common knowledge that the various ancient clans would secretly cultivate talented members of their own. Most of this training was done in secret, and they would be put into service for the family clan after their training was completed. Most of the ancient clans would mark those youths with a special symbol during training, which also contained a curse. The youth would suffer a massive counterforce if he tried to betray the clan. After all, the ancient clans spent massive amounts of time and effort in grooming those youths. It would be a great loss to them if the youth decided to betray them. Don't tell me that those two youths were kamikaze soldiers groomed by the ancient Yu clan. The ancient Yu clan wanted to rob us of our spirit of chaos fragments. Everyone was stunned by this conjecture. How could that be? How could the ancient Yu clan have groomed such powerful practitioners? The powers of the various ancient clans were more or less equivalent to each other. It was incomprehensible to them that the ancient Yu clan was able to groom such devastatingly formidable practitioners. Moreover, those youths were still very young, looking to be in their early teens. Even the most gifted child would not be able to attain such great powers within such a short period of time. A furious discussion broke out amongst the crowd. Only Yi Qingtang remained quietly pensive. Ancient Yu clan. Others might not believe that the ancient Yu clan could become so powerful in such a short period. But Yi Qingtang knew very well that it was possible. This was simply because of little Yu Yun. The ancient Yu clan had kidnapped little Yu Yun in the first mainland. And little Yu Yun's spiritual abode was exceedingly powerful. Linking the strange things occurring in the ancient Yu clan in central mainland recently, plus the symbols on these two youths, Yi Qingtang could more or less confirm that the ancient Yu clan was behind it all. No need to guess anymore. Yi Qingtang suddenly spoke out. Holy Lord. The crowd stared at Yi Qingtang in confusion. The ancient Yu clan is behind all of this. But, many of the ancient clan members were not convinced. Yi Qingtang cut them off and continued. Before you say anything, you should first think carefully about the recent actions of the ancient Yu clan. Chapter 1939, The Mastermind Behind It All, 3, Yi Qingtang's words sent them all into silence. It was true that the ancient Yu clan had been acting differently lately. They hadn't attended the previous martial arts championship, even though the ancient Yu clan were always trying their best to come on top. They had been too indifferent this time. Furthermore, they had been taking rather big actions lately, acting arrogantly on the central mainland, which rubbed some of the other ancient clans the wrong way. But then they realized that the power of the ancient Yu clan had gotten stronger than before. These had all happened gradually over time, which was why none of them had noticed the connection between the events. As for the current massacres of the ancient clans that were occurring, there had been no news from the ancient Yu clan at all. Some of the ancient clans closer to them had wanted to warn them but had received no reply at all. In fact, they had not received any news about the ancient Yu clan being attacked either. Combined with the fact that the power of the ancient Yu clan had greatly increased previously, they couldn't help but suspect whether the mastermind of all this was the ancient Yu clan. Could it really be the ancient Yu clan? Damn it, I knew that those old scoundrels were up to no good. I treated them as madmen when they were acting so arrogantly on the central mainland. With Yi Qingtang's words, they finally strung together the hints that they had missed out previously. But this only made them panic even more. Even in the past, the ancient Yu clan's audacious ambition had never been lacking. If they were to talk about ambition, few people on the central mainland could beat the ancient Yu clan. No wonder domain monarch Jiang was the first to go. The ancient Yu clan had already been eyeing the title of domain monarch for the longest time. They had challenged them multiple times previously already, so if they were to make a move, the first they would attack would definitely be the one most at odds with them. Yi Qingtang's heart sank as she heard this. The ancient clan people all started chattering among themselves, all of them wanting nothing more than to deal with the ancient Yu clan immediately. But they all knew that they were no match for them at all. After all, they had sent out two youths who had wiped out many of the ancient clans with barely any effort. Who knew how strong the ancient Yu clan was now? Yi Qingtang had her own thoughts and didn't want to spend any more time guessing with them here, so she sent them back to rest first. The ancient clan people now followed Yi Qingtang's every word obediently and didn't dare waste any time ushering Yi Qingtang back into the Temple of Shadows. Likewise, they also didn't dare take one step out of the Temple of Shadows. Now that they knew who their opponent was, how would they dare leave this haven? The ancient clans who had disagreements with the ancient Yu clan were all fearful now. They quickly sent messages back to their clan to arrange for their transfer. Then they hid in the Temple of Shadows with the elite members of their clan and did not dare to step out at all. All their hope was now placed on the Temple of Shadows. They were all clear on the fact that apart from the Holy Lord of Shadows, none of them was a match for the ancient Yu clan. As the news spread, more and more ancient clan came to the Temple of Shadows to seek protection. Soon enough, the Temple of Shadows transformed into a center of refuge. Chapter 1940, Ancient Yu Clan, 1, somewhere hidden in the valleys of the central mainland. A white-haired old man was standing in a huge pavilion. As he lifted his eyes slightly, his gaze fell on the wall of the pavilion. There were many crystal balls crammed onto the wall, all of them glowing from the inside. Suddenly, without a warning, 2 crystal balls split open and shattered onto the floor. The gaze of the old man changed and a middle-aged man guarding outside rushed in. "You Feng and you choose crystal balls shattered." The middle-aged man frowned as he looked at the 2 shattered crystal balls. The old man's gaze swept over the 2 crystal balls and he said solemnly, "Where did they go?" The middle-aged man thought for a moment before saying, Yu Feng had been following orders obediently, obtaining the spirit of chaos fragments from the ancient clans. But he seemed to have suffered some humiliation at the Temple of Shadows and went to find Yu Chu after he came back. Before the middle-aged man finished speaking, the old man retracted his gaze. The middle-aged man said, "These life pearls are the source of their lives. Since they are broken, does this mean that at the Temple of Shadows, they died there?" the old man said lightly. The middle-aged man froze before understanding what the old man said. If their life source had shattered, it could only mean that they were no longer alive. "Are you going to send anyone else to continue the mission since they're dead?" The old man nodded slightly. He lifted his arm to point out 2 other crystal balls and said, "Let them go." Yes, the middle-aged man accepted the order but said hesitantly, "What about the Temple of Shadows?" The old man had both his hands behind his back as he turned to step out of the pavilion. The Holy Lord of Shadows used to exist on the mainland. If she has truly returned, her strength is not to be underestimated. Our main goal is to collect the spirit of chaos fragments from the ancient clan. We are not going to deal with the Holy Lord of Shadows at this stage. But I've heard that many ancient clans have already gone to the Temple of Shadows for protection, the middle-aged man said. The old man narrowed his eyes slightly and walked deeper into the valley. In front of him was a huge palace. The gates of the palace were slightly ajar. It was pitch black inside the palace and there was no movement at all. Suddenly, a pair of glowing silver eyes appeared through the gap between the gates. It was looking outside the palace. The old man narrowed his eyes further and spoke to the middle-aged man behind him. "It doesn't matter. It won't be too late even if we deal with the Temple of Shadows after collecting the spirit of chaos fragments from the other ancient clans on the mainland. We have nothing to fear about the ancient clans. If anything, now that they've all gathered at the Temple of Shadows, it saves us the trouble of having to search for them." Yes. The middle-aged man understood his intentions. They didn't have to deal with the Temple of Shadows now. But he asked again after some hesitation, "How are we going to deal with the elder on the east side?" "Deal with him?" The old man laughed slightly and said, "Well, spare their lives if they understand what's going on, but," the old man paused for a while before saying, "they are bound to find out about what happened to the domain monarch and the Jiang family. Remember, we have to collect all the fragments of the spirit of chaos. Not one piece can be missing." "Yes." Having received his orders, the middle-aged retreated before rushing to the east side of the valley. Chapter 1941, Ancient Yu Clan, 2, there were a few pavilions over there. The middle-aged man went forward and saw a lady standing at the entrance of one of the pavilions. She looked like she was pondering something. Somewhat startled by the sight of the middle-aged man, she took a quick step forward. "Warden." The middle-aged man maintained his cold expression, completely devoid of the earlier respect he had shown the elders. He glanced impatiently at the lady. "Jiang Qin, did you manage to recall if the Jiang family had any more hiding places in the mainland? The lady standing outside the pavilion was indeed Jiang Qin of the Jiang family. She had already lost the arrogance she exuded during her days in the Jiang family. She gazed respectfully and timidly at the middle-aged man. I have already written down all the estates owned by the Jiang family, and handed the list over to you. We have gone to all those places but could not find any traces of the domain monarch. The middle-aged man frowned impatiently. Jiang Qin looked increasingly grim. Jiang Qin, if Tuoba Yao had not been wise enough to jump ship to our ancient Yu clan, you would have all already died when we destroyed the Jiang family. I will give you another 2 days. If you cannot provide any useful leads by then, the middle-aged man didn't complete his sentence. But the threat in his tone was evident. Without waiting for Jiang Qin to respond, the middle-aged man turned and left, leaving Jiang Qin standing there alone, her face pallid with fear. After the middle-aged man left, the door behind Jiang Qin slowly opened. Yi Yu and Yi Sun peeked out cautiously from behind the door. Aunt Qin, Yi Yu looked at the grim-looking Jiang Qin. Jiang Qin snapped out of her trance. Aunt Qin, did the Jiang family really own only those few estates? Have you given it careful thought? The ancient Yu clan is so powerful. Even the Jiang family was not spared. If they wanted our lives, I am afraid. Yi Yu bit her lips as she stared at Jiang Qin with deep fear in her eyes. Jiang Qin's originally grim face turned an even paler shade of white. I know. I already told them everything. The moment we decided to jump ship to the ancient Yu clan, I already planned to serve them wholeheartedly. I even told them about the secret tunnels in the compound for their first attack on the Jiang family. Jiang Qin furrowed her brows. No one could ever imagine that there was a traitor in the Jiang family who led to their demise. And this traitor was the domain monarch's biological daughter and granddaughters. Now that the ancient Yu clan was so powerful and getting exponentially stronger by the day, the two clans were already long at odds with each other. After Tuoba Yao got news of Jiang Qin's punishment, he had pleaded with the domain monarch to let her out. But the domain monarch had refused. As a result, Tuoba Yao had secretly contacted the ancient Yu clan. Knowing that the domain monarch was displeased with Jiang Qin, the couple had shrewdly decided to jump ship over to the ancient Yu clan. And helping the ancient Yu clan to destroy the Jiang family, this was Jiang Qin's great present to the ancient Yu clan. A show of her loyalty. But Jiang Qin had been imprisoned then and could not transmit information. The Yi family was actually the one who had opened the doors of the Jiang family for the ancient Yu clan. Now that the Jiang family had been destroyed, the domain monarch had fled with a group of family members after the major battle. Jiang Qin, Yi Yu and the rest had immediately sought protection under the ancient Yu clan. Aunt Qin, I know you have tried your best, but, you saw clearly what the ancient Yu clan wants. Yi Yu pursed her lips. Jiang Qin's face became very grave. Let me see if I can think of other solutions. Chapter 1942, Ancient Yu Clan, 3, Aunt Qin, I know you are feeling very guilty. But now that things have progressed to this stage, we are already at the point of no return. If grandfather knows, we betrayed the Jiang family. I am afraid that, Yi Yu didn't continue. Jiang Qin's heart gave a heavy thump. I know. Yi Yu, go back and rest first. Jiang Qin patted Yi Yu on the shoulder before turning to leave. Yi Yu looked at Jiang Qin's departing profile. A cold smile took over the subservient and worried look on her face. In contrast, Yi Sun appeared very despondent. How could she not know how heartless Yi Yu was? Yi Yu was already like this when in the Yi family. But after personally witnessing Yi Yu cause the demise of the entire Jiang family without an ounce of regret, Yi Sun was now feeling increasingly frantic. Yi Sun knew very well that Jiang Qin treated Yi Yu as her own daughter. But Yi Yu did not reciprocate the same feelings. Sun, come with me to find the warden of the ancient Yu clan. Yi Yu suddenly spoke up after Jiang Qin left. Sister Yu, why are you seeking out the warden? Yi Sun was surprised. Jiang Qin might not be able to find the domain monarch and the rest of the Jiang family. If this drags on, the ancient Yu clan will be very displeased with us. Yi Yu narrowed her eyes. Sister Yu, you have another solution. Yi Sun looked at Yi Yu. Yi Yu smiled but kept silent. She just went to find the ancient Yu clan warden with Yi Sun in tow. Meanwhile, quite a large number of the ancient clan members had gathered at the Temple of Shadows. News of the ancient Yu clan being the mastermind had spread quietly across the various ancient clans. Thereafter, an increasing number of people sought protection under the temple. The 8 tribe leaders were very unhappy about this. But they had no choice but to maintain their silence, as Yi Qingtang didn't chase those folks off. Yi Qingtang allowed the various clan members to stay on at the temple, but not without putting them to task. The Temple of Shadows was very powerful, but it would be even stronger with the gathered forces of the various ancient clans. Making use of the opportunity, Yi Qingtang instructed the clan leaders to discreetly make use of their connections to investigate the ancient Yu clan. Yi Qingtang knew the reason behind the ancient Yu clan's sudden increase in power. But she had no idea just how powerful the clan was now. She had to know, as a result, she needed to tap into the informant network of the various ancient clans. At the same time, she also hinted for the clan members to go investigate the clans who had been massacred, to see if there were any further news on them. Especially the domain monarch's Jiang clan. It appears that the ancient Yu clan has no intention of attacking the Temple of Shadows in the near future. Little White Tiger was sprawled across Yi Qingtang's knee. The entire Temple of Shadows had gone on high alert since the death of those 2 youths. But after 2 weeks of waiting, there was still no news of any impending attack. It's only a matter of time before they come after us. From the intelligence gathered by the various ancient clans, they are still robbing others of the spirit of chaos fragments. They are not attacking the Temple of Shadows now as they are leaving us to the last. Yi Qingtang was no fool. She could easily surmise the intentions of the ancient Yu clan. As Yi Qingtang mused worriedly, there was finally some news regarding the Jiang family. Yi Qingtang hurried over. Holy Lord, the ancient Yu clan has destroyed several more ancient clans. We also found out that the ancient Yu clan is trying to seek out the whereabouts of the domain monarch. Several Jiang family hideouts were attacked in sequence. It looks like the ancient Yu clan has yet to obtain the spirit of chaos fragment belonging to the domain monarch. Chapter 1943, Hostage, 1, Yi Qingtang heaved a sigh of relief upon hearing the report. No one had seen the bodies of Jiang Lang and his wife, so perhaps they managed to escape with the domain monarch. However, it was somewhat strange. According to the ancient clan folks, the Jiang family had managed to keep their hideouts a secret. Even their informants only found out about them after the ancient Yu clan raided them. Yi Qingtang had not heard anyone mention those hideouts before either. Those hideouts must have been a highly classified secret. So how did the ancient Yu clan know of them? Oh yes, Holy Lord, there are a few more ancient clans who wish to seek protection under you. They are waiting for you outside the temple. One of the ancient clan leaders spoke up. Yi Qingtang was already used to this. The stream of ancient clan folks who had come seeking protection had been relentless in recent days. Silent acquiescence was acceptance. Those ancient clan leaders immediately led their men into the Temple of Shadows. But compared to the first wave of clan members, these folks appeared exceptionally wretched and pathetic. Everyone's spirits appeared to have suffered significantly. Our humble greetings, Holy Lord. The clan leaders stepped forward and bowed. Their faces looked haggard and fatigued. Upon seeing those ancient clan leaders, the expressions of the 8 tribe leaders shifted. Isn't that the leader of the Qinhua clan? How did you manage to find time out of your busy schedule to come to pay a visit to our Temple of Shadows? The goblin tribe leader raised his brows in sarcasm. His comment made the clan leader very awkward and sheepish. There had been some conflicts between the Chinua clan and the Goblin tribe earlier on. As such, it wasn't surprising that the Goblin tribe leader had always hated the Chinua clan. Previously, when the various ancient clans had come seeking protection, the Chinua clan had publicly claimed that they would never abide by the Temple of Shadows. But now, the Chinua clan had come running to the Temple of Shadows for protection like a dog with its tail between its legs. The Chinua clan leader smiled bitterly after being ridiculed, but could not find any reason to retort. He gazed up at Yi Qingtang, sitting high up on her throne. Holy Lord, I was too arrogant. After knowing the culprit was the ancient Yu clan, I thought I could arrange for my people to flee and hide beforehand, but I never expected the ancient Yu clan to be so vicious. They pursued us until we had nowhere to run or hide. Along with a number of other ancient clans in the mainland, the Chinua clan did not seek protection under the Temple of Shadows. Their leader thought they could flee with their people and hide out until it was safe. They never expected the ancient Yu clan to be so cruel. They slaughtered anyone who had any sort of connection to the Chinua clan. The ancient Yu clan pursued after them relentlessly, capturing their loved ones and holding them hostage. Holy Lord, they have threatened to kill off every single person they have captured if we don't show up in 5 days. The viciousness of the ancient Yu clan is beyond belief. Yi Qingtang sighed inwardly at the words of the Chinua clan leader. She knew better than anyone else how vicious the ancient Yu clan could be. Countless living creatures in the first mainland had perished because of them. It's not just us. Even some members of the Jiang family have been captured by the ancient Yu clan. Who? Yi Qingtang's heart quivered on hearing the words Jiang family, but she had to maintain her neutral expression. I believe they are the close family of the domain monarch. The ancient Yu clan already announced that if the domain monarch doesn't show up in 5 days, they will publicly execute those captured people from the Jiang family. Having experienced the persecution by the ancient Yu clan, the other ancient clan members were no longer surprised by the cruel methods employed. Chapter 1944, Hostage, 2, The ancient Yu clan was forcing the ancient clans to reveal themselves. Although Ming Di had killed off those 2 youths, the ancient Yu clan did not slow down their massacre. Several other exemplary youths had appeared during this period of time. Like the first 2, they were all very young but extremely powerful. Everyone was shocked and intimidated by this display of the ancient Yu clan's might. No one knew just how many more such formidable youths the ancient Yu clan had. In the entire mainland, only the Temple of Shadows could stand up against that clan. Those first few ancient clans who had sought protection under the Temple of Shadows couldn't help feeling relieved that they took such quick action. They managed to lead their people to the Temple of Shadows before the ancient Yu clan went on their killing spree. Otherwise, they would probably end up like the Chinua clan, with a large portion of their own people being held hostage to force them to emerge. If they didn't turn up, those people would die horrible deaths. If they did, with their current capabilities, they would be just like lambs sent for slaughter. Yi Qingtang's heart sank on hearing their discussion. She had yet to find out the whereabouts of Jiang Lang and his wife. The thing that worried her the most was the 2 of them falling into the hands of the ancient Yu clan. First, she had to confirm if Jiang Lang and his wife were among the hostages. In addition, she had to make use of this chance to thoroughly investigate the current power of the ancient Yu clan. Even as Yi Qingtang soothed over the rising emotions of the ancient clan folks, she couldn't help worrying over the hostages held by the ancient Yu clan. As no one could tell her if Jiang Lang and his wife were among the hostages, the only way was to personally go over to take a look. There was no time like the present. Yi Qingtang decided to investigate that very night with Ming Di. After knowing Yi Qingtang's plans, the other ancient clan folks requested to go along with her, so that they could help her if required. How could Yi Qingtang not see through to their true intentions? They were just worried that without Ming Di and her around, there would be no one strong enough to protect the Temple of Shadows. In other words, they were only scared of death. Yi Qingtang knew that they would find all sorts of excuses to tag along even if she objected to their request now. By then, things might get messy and she might accidentally expose her true identity. As a result, she granted her approval on the condition that they followed her instructions to a T. The various ancient clans had no objections to that at all. Those few ancient clans who had just arrived, including the Qingyue clan, also chose to tag along despite having had no time to rest. With Yi Qingtang and Ming Di around, they finally had some hope of rescuing their own people. After all, with their lack of abilities, there was no way they would dare to make any moves on their own. Somewhere in a canyon situated in the territory of the ancient Yu clan, 2 ancient Yu clan sentries were guarding the entrance. Several sizable metal cages were placed close by. The cages were crammed full of haggard and despondent-looking prisoners, who were wearing the uniforms of the various ancient clans. The family emblems which had once brought them great honor had now become the reason behind their wretched state. It was dawn. The sky started to brighten and a chilly wind blew into the valley. Exposed to the elements, the bone-chilling wind blew into the cages, making the prisoners shiver from the cold. Most of them had suffered severe injuries. Their clothes were splattered with blood stains but none of their wounds had received any treatment. Ravaged by the howling winds, their life energy started to drain bit by bit as time went by. Chapter 1945, Hostage, 3, Death could claim any one of those prisoners at any time. With their grave injuries, there were already many dead bodies collapsed on the floor of the metal cages. As the weather had been rather hot and humid the past few days, the corpses had already started to rot. Squeezed in the cages with the dead bodies, the survivors had to endure the overwhelming stench of decay. The shadow of death shrouded the hearts of everyone. They watched as their own people died, knowing that it would soon be their fate. Just months ago, these people were the much admired and respected elite of the ancient clans. But now, they were just a bunch of livestock squeezed in a metal cage with their dead companions. Despondence was written on the faces of nearly everyone inside. Any initial hope in their eyes had already been gradually eroded by despair. As the ancient Yu clan continued on their path of destruction, every prisoner knew that it was a one-way road to hell for anyone captured. No one would come to rescue them. It would be a suicidal mission. They had already been abandoned by the rest of the world. The ancient Yu clan sentries at the entrance completely disregarded those imprisoned ancient clan folks. In their eyes, they were no different from a bunch of rotting corpses, clinging pathetically on to their last breath. Instead, the sentries were on high alert for anyone who might try to rescue the prisoners. As Yi Qingtang led her group to the canyon, they stuck closely to the side of a steep rock face to keep themselves from sight. It wasn't difficult to spot the metal cages from afar, as well as the completely disheartened hostages trapped within. Looking at the wretched state of their own people, the eyes of those clans who had suffered under the ancient Yu clan, all turned red like raging beasts. The ancient Yu clan is so despicable. We should just fight them to the death. One of the ancient clan elders gritted his teeth. They might have been able to quietly endure their loss if they hadn't personally witnessed those prisoners. But now that they had seen the hostages, it was near impossible to turn their backs on them. Yi Qingtang narrowed her eyes as she surveyed the prisoners. She then shot the 8 tribe leaders a discreet look, indicating that they should hold back the ancient clan folks. The ancient Yu clan had boldly left those hostages out in plain view, precisely because they wanted to provoke the rage of the other clan members and make them act impulsively. Now was not the time to show how loyal one was. If they just charged in now, they would just end up being caught in the trap set by the ancient Yu clan. Luckily the ancient clan folk still had some common sense. They knew that they still had to rely on Yi Qingtang and Ming Di, and didn't let their emotions blind their actions. Yi Qingtang surveyed the prisoners inside the cages, trying to see if there was anyone from the Jiang family. Soon enough, she noticed several familiar figures inside one of the cages. As she squinted her eyes to look closer, Yi Qingtang saw 3 familiar-looking females squeezed in that metal cage. Wasn't that Yi Yu, Yi Sun and Jiang Qin? Apart from them, Yi Qingtang didn't see anyone else from the Jiang family. At this, Yi Qingtang heaved a sigh of relief. Yi Qingtang didn't care if it were only these three who were captured. Even if the ancient Yu clan didn't take Yi Yu's life, it was just a matter of time before Yi Qingtang personally killed her. But just as Yi Qingtang relaxed, she noticed one of the patrolling sentries discreetly drop a cloth pouch into Yi Yu's cage as he passed by them. Chapter 1946, Brutes, 1. There were some other grim-faced people in the same cage as Yi Yu and the other two. Yi Qingtang did not recognize any of those people, but she did notice that after the cloth pouch was passed inside, it was quickly blocked from view by those people. From her high vantage point, it was pure coincidence that she happened to see what happened. After those people blocked the cloth pouch from sight, Yi Yu and the other two immediately opened the pouch and took out some food from it. Then they quickly gobbled it all up. Strange. No one cared if any one of the hostages were near death. None of the ancient Yu clan folks displayed the slightest bit of pity or mercy. So why would the ancient Yu clan sentry suddenly be so kind as to give food to Yi Yu and the others? Yi Qingtang took a closer look and discovered that although Yi Yu and the other two were injured and looked very haggard, there was no despair in their eyes. That type of hopelessness was difficult to feign. In addition, there were no corpses inside their cage. Apart from Yi Yu and the other two females, the other people inside the cage were youths in their early teens. Does that cage contain any of your people? Yi Qingtang pointed toward Yi Yu's cage. The ancient clan members all thought that Yi Qingtang was going to save the hostages. They immediately leaned forward to try and identify the people. But after studying the prisoners for some time, none of the ancient clan members could recognize any one of those youths at all. It was very strange. The leaders and elders could not identify those youths even though they were garbed in the uniforms of the ancient clans. Yi Qingtang smelled a rat. Just as Yi Qingtang was pondering what kind of trick the ancient Yu clan was up to, several figures suddenly appeared at the entrance of the canyon. Glancing at the group, Yi Qingtang noticed the figure at the front. Domain Monarch? How is that possible? Why did he come? One of the ancient clan elders instantly recognized the wild-haired Domain Monarch. It was the long-missing Domain Monarch. Yi Qingtang's eyes narrowed the moment she saw the Domain Monarch. Her heart nearly came to a stop when she saw the people tagging along behind. Jiang Sun. Jiang Lang. The sentries immediately sounded the signal when they saw the Domain Monarch. The faces of the trio were all tensed up as if prepared to go into battle. Suddenly, a wild wind started up as dust and sand swirled beneath the hands of the Domain Monarch. The sentries were sent flying away by the wild gusts of wind. Jiang Sun and Jiang Lang took this opportunity to charge into the canyon to locate members of the Jiang family. Have those Jiang family people gone mad? They are just throwing themselves into a trap. They've been tricked. The ancient clan members never expected the Domain Monarch to really come forth to save his own people. They really believed the Domain Monarch must have gone mad. The Jiang family has always valued the family above all. But this time, the Domain Monarch really shouldn't have come. A large number of ancient clan folks had been captured but no one dared to charge in to rescue them. But now, they watched as the Jiang family risked everything to save their own people. Although this was akin to bashing one's head against a hard rock, this kind of courage was also rather admirable. The ancient clan members expressed a combination of regret and respect. Yi Qingtang was the only one who felt both shock and joy upon seeing Jiang Lang and Jiang Sun. She was happy they were still alive but shocked that they were throwing their lives away now. And all just to save those three. Holy Lord, now that the Jiang family has arrived, should we take this opportunity when the two clans are fighting to? One of the ancient clan leaders hinted that they should take advantage of the scuffle to save their own people. Yi Qingtang didn't respond. Instead, she kept her eyes fixed upon Jiang Lang and the others. Chapter 1947, Brutes, 2, Ming Di, Yi Qingtang said softly. Wait for my signal. Yi Qingtang gritted her teeth. She could ignore it if they had been anyone else, but she had to save Jiang Lang and Jiang Sun. She couldn't watch the two who treated her like their own family member die so cruelly in the hands of the ancient Yu clan. Finally, Ming Di's eyes were burning, anticipating a huge fight. The ancient clans all thought that Yi Qingtang was finally going to attack the ancient Yu clan, and they all perked up. There were only a few soldiers from the ancient Yu clan there. Jiang Sun and Jiang Lang quickly found Yi Yu and the rest of them. Aunt! Jiang Qin, who was looking extremely pathetic, cried out when she saw Jiang Sun surging forward. Yi Yu followed closely behind Jiang Qin. While fighting against the ancient Yu clan soldiers, Jiang Sun said, "How are your injuries? Are there any other members from the Jiang family here?" They had not anticipated the attack at all, so had no idea how many members of the Jiang family were still alive. "It's just a few of us left. Please get us out of here," Jiang Qin pleaded. Jiang Sun's lips twisted. Even though she didn't like Jiang Qin and Yi Yu, they were still family after all. Jiang Sun broke their chains with one swing of her sword and let Jiang Qin and the rest out. "Brothers of different clans, let's go." Jiang Sun's gaze swept across the other youths in the cages. Without thinking much of it, he prepared to leave with Jiang Qin and Yi Yu. She dragged them along, one in each hand, and ran. Yi Sun could only follow behind them, panting heavily. But just as they grabbed Yi Yu and Jiang Qin and Yi Yu's eyes suddenly flashed fiercely as they attacked the defenseless Jiang Sun and Jiang Lang from behind. Before they could even react, all they saw was black and they collapsed. "Grandfather! Father!" The domain monarch was still dealing with the ancient Yu clan soldiers at the entrance when he suddenly heard two cries. He lifted his eyes only to see a group of ancient Yu clan soldiers dragging Jiang Qin and Yi Yu out. Even Jiang Sun and Jiang Lang, whom he had sent to rescue them, were being dragged out as well. The two of them seemed to have been knocked out and did not stir at all. The knives of the soldiers were on their necks. "Domain monarch, your loved ones are in our hands. I might let them go if you hand over your spirit of chaos fragment obediently." A warden from the ancient Yu clan walked out slowly. Both his hands were behind his back and he was looking at the solemn domain monarch with arrogance. Seeing the four of them captured, the domain monarch's eyes narrowed and flashed coldly. His expression was extremely dark. He rarely had time for his family since he had always been obsessed with honing his martial arts. Now that the Jiang family was on the verge of extinction, he was going to protect the remaining members even if it cost his life. "The spirit of chaos fragment is with me. Let them go and I will become your hostage. I'll hand you the fragment once I know they are safe," the domain monarch said. "Do you think you are in a position to negotiate with us now?" The ancient Yu clan warden let out of a bark of contemptuous laughter, as though the domain monarch was nothing to him. Chapter 1948, Betrayal, 1, Domain Monarch, it's a different time now. With your current strength, what right do you have to negotiate with the ancient Yu clan? Even I can kill you easily. I'm only asking you to hand it over to save you some dignity. The domain monarch narrowed his eyes. He took out a small fragment from his chest and pinched it in his hand. The warden's eyes lit up as he saw the fragment. Not a single fragment of the spirit of chaos can be missing. Isn't obtaining all the fragments the reason you've been wiping out all the ancient clans? I'm going to destroy it if you don't listen to me. Then you will never be able to fulfill your wishes in this lifetime, the domain monarch said coldly. The warden narrowed his eyes and gritted his teeth. "All right, I'll save you a bit of your dignity and let them go then." With that, Yi Yu and the rest were released on the spot. Yi Yu and Jiang Qin exchanged a look with the warden before replacing their expressions with worry and picking up the unconscious Jiang Sun and Jiang Lang. They rushed over to the Domain Monarch's side. "Domain Monarch, you should hand the fragment over now," the warden said coldly. Seeing Yi Yu and the rest of them walk behind him, he breathed in silently and enveloped them in his power. "Go now." The Domain Monarch shouted fiercely as the ball of light surrounding them flew up into the sky. "You want to leave? It's not going to be that easy." The warden laughed coldly. As he said that, a figure flew out from behind him. The Domain Monarch didn't even have time to see what the figure looked like before a fierce attack came at him like thunder. He quickly retaliated but was still thrown back a few meters. A handsome youth stood in front of the Domain Monarch. "Domain Monarch," the youth laughed lightly. "You're from the Nanlin family." The Domain Monarch looked strangely at the Nanlin family clothes the youth was wearing. The youth lifted his eyes slightly and ripped off the disguise he was in. "What do you mean Nanlin family? The warden doesn't find this troublesome at all, does he? Why do we need such complicated antics to deal with trash like you? We should just kill you all." The Domain Monarch suddenly understood why he was in those clothes. All he wanted to do right now was to make sure Jiang Sun and the rest left safely. He raised his hand and threw the Spirit of Chaos fragment out. Eyes flashing, the youth leaped over to catch it. The Domain Monarch seized this opportunity to leave with the people in the ball of light. The youth immediately felt something off as he clutched the fragment with some strength. "This fragment is fake." The warden's eyes turned cold. He let out a cold laugh as he looked at the fleeing Domain Monarch. Just as he thought he could get away with the people in the ball of light, Jiang Qin gritted her teeth, the hand in her sleeve hesitating for a while. But just as she was hesitating, Yi Yu took advantage of the Domain Monarch's lack of attention and stabbed him in the back with a dagger. Ugh! In great pain, the Domain Monarch looked at his granddaughter in disbelief. A sudden pain ripped through his chest from the wound, disrupting his power, and they fell from the sky. Yi Yu, the Domain Monarch's eyes widened at the unexpected attack by Yi Yu. Chapter 1949, Betrayal. 2. He had planned everything perfectly. But the only thing he failed to account for was his very own granddaughter betraying him. Ha! Domain Monarch, you didn't expect this, right? He who knows when to move with the times is a wise man. Your granddaughter and daughter have been smart enough to switch to the winning side. You are the only one who dared to use a fake fragment to try and fool us. The warden gave a cold laugh. The entire scene was witnessed by Yi Qingtang and the rest, who were still hiding. What's wrong with those two Jiang family women? How could they do this to their own people? Several ancient clan leaders widened their eyes in disbelief. They even suspected that their eyes and ears must be deceiving them. Doomed. I am afraid the Domain Monarch is doomed this time. The crowd shook their heads and lamented the betrayal of the Domain Monarch by his own family. They also felt regretful that the Jiang family failed to escape their demise in the end. The Domain Monarch had been engaged with his enemies and didn't know what happened within the canyon. But Yi Qingtang and her group saw everything from their high vantage point. Even those battle-worn ancient clan leaders never expected there to be two traitors within the Jiang family. Hidden within her sleeves, Yi Qingtang's fists were tightly clenched. She felt a desperate urge to tear Yi Yu apart when she witnessed her sneak attack against Jiang Lang. How could Yi Yu be so heartless as to attack her very own family members? Yi Yu, you are really something. Yi Qingtang narrowed her eyes. Taking out a golden mask from her space ring, she put it on. It was the mask left behind by the Holy Lord of Shadows. Ming Di. A vicious glint flashed across Ming Di's blood-red eyes when he heard Yi Qingtang's voice. The massacre was about to begin. A caustic smile appeared on the ancient Yu clan youth when he saw the injured Domain Monarch. I advise you not to move about. That blade is poisoned, and the more you struggle, the faster the venom will spread. If you continue being disobedient, I will have to handicap your arms and legs. See if you can still struggle then." The youth raised his hand and reached toward the domain monarch's arms. The domain monarch took a deep breath. He knew he was powerless to defend himself now and had resigned himself to death. But just as the domain monarch had given up all hope, a booming dragon's roar rang out. In the next second, a massive shadow fell over the crowd. A gigantic demon dragon was flying toward them, and a slender figure was riding upon that beast. It was a woman wearing a golden mask. "Is that?" The warden frowned at the sight of the demon dragon and woman. For a second there, he had no idea how to react. But the eyes of the domain monarch flashed when he saw the demon dragon. Temple of Shadows. Demon dragon Mingdi. So the one riding upon that dragon was. With a loud crash, Mingdi landed somewhere outside the canyon. The warden finally snapped out of his trance, suddenly realizing who that gold-masked woman on that dragon might be. The warden has seen that golden mask in a portrait before. It was an emperor-level artifact and belonged to the Holy Lord of Shadows. Why was the Holy Lord of Shadows here? Yi Qingtang stood upon Mingdi's back as she surveyed the people before her. A murderous glint surfaced in her eyes when she saw the pale-faced domain monarch, the unconscious Jiang Lang and the others. But she was well aware that now was not the time to face the ancient Yu clan head-on. Nevertheless, no matter what, she had to bring those people away with her today. Yi Qingtang had Ming Di pick up those people before turning to flee the scene. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.